Chapter 1147, Going All Out. Chapter 1147, Going All Out. Let's go all out. Qianhuan King and Golden Rock King said, while nodding solemnly. I'll go first, and you two will make sneak attacks against him once you get a chance. With these words, Tianying King rushed rapidly forward like a fleeting phantom. As he moved forward, he somehow split into 10 Tianying Kings. Jian Wushuang immediately opened his scarlet eye and used his strength of soul to detect these 10 Tianying Kings. The next moment, his countenance became grim as he exclaimed in his heart, "What? They're real bodies instead of illusionary ones." His scarlet eye secret skill enabled him to tell illusionary things from real ones, but he failed to find any defect in the 10 Tianying Kings. That meant all of them were the Universe Master's real bodies. Each of the 10 Tianying Kings held a long black whip in hand, which looked like a big python. They surrounded Jian Wushuang and then attacked him simultaneously. Swoosh! 10 black long whips were flung toward him at the same time. They looked like 10 big flying pythons, rushing toward him and planning to wrap themselves around him. Soon enough, they besieged Jian Wushuang. He saw them blot out the sky and cover up the earth in an instant, leaving no gap for him to escape. What an amazing technique! Jian Wushuang exclaimed in his heart. Tianying King might not be able to compete with Golden Rock King in terms of battle strength, but he was clearly much faster and nimbler than the latter. He was particularly adept at trapping his opponent. Even a Universe Master could hardly escape from his grasp. However, the fact that a Universe Master was unable to get rid of those whips did not necessarily mean that Jian Wushuang could not do that. Go blaze quicksand! Jian Wushuang growled and released his blaze quicksand. In a split second, a violent storm of sand and green flames arose and expanded, tearing the black big pythons into pieces. After smashing the big pythons to pieces, the blaze quicksand rushed toward the 10 Tianying Kings. Humph! Jian Wushuang snorted. The next moment, one of the 10 Tianying Kings gave a grunt and ran toward Golden Rock King and Qianhuan King in panic as the other 9 kings suddenly dispersed. Fuck, what treasure does he have? Tianying King blurted out while keeping a straight face and staring at the blaze quicksand around Jian Wushuang. It must be a treasure which can summon some kind of realm, Golden Rock King said with a frown. Qianhuan King, I'll use my blood-deadly longbow to distract him, and you can use your killing move to finish him off once you get a chance. Got it. Qianhuan King nodded solemnly and said. Golden Rock King snorted with contempt and then summoned a fierce-looking red longbow. It stood as tall as an adult and looked very aggressive. What's that? Jian Wushuang's face slightly changed as the red longbow's aura seemed quite dangerous. Jian Wushuang, I think that longbow is a blood-deadly longbow. It's a chaos magic treasure, and its fame has spread far and wide in the eternal chaotic world. The most powerful people in that world, who recruited experts for their armies, would only equip their most elite soldiers with such longbows. It's a powerful weapon. Be careful, said Gu King. Upon hearing that, Jian Wushuang stepped up his vigilance, his pupils constricted. In the meantime, Golden Rock King put one foot back on the void and then shifted his weight to this back leg. He channeled nearly all his powers into his arms, but was only able to slightly pull back the string of the bow. What? Gu King could not help scoffing at the Universe Master, while thinking, is that all he can do? He only managed to slightly draw the string back. It seems that his powers aren't enough to fully activate this blood-deadly longbow. The next moment, Golden Rock King released the string. Shoo! A flowing red light instantly pierced through the void and flew toward Jian Wushuang. Even though Golden Rock King was unable to bring the longbow's powers into full play, the flowing red light it shot out still looked extremely aggressive and ferocious. More importantly, it was amazingly fast. It seemed to have approached Jian Wushuang in a split second. It was so fast that he did not even have time to consider what kind of sword technique he should use to fend it off. As such, he simply lifted up his blood mountain sword to block it. Clang! It sounded as if two metal things had clanged together. Jian Wushuang gave a choked cry after being pushed backward by the strong impact. Did he block it? Golden Rock King's face changed. The next moment, his killing intent skyrocketed. I'll shoot at him again. He pulled his string back, once again, albeit slightly. A flowing red light was shot out again. Again. Jian Wushuang mocked inside his heart with a faint curl to his lips. The moment Golden Rock King drew the longbow, he swished his hand to summon a sandstorm for protection. The flowing light easily pierced through the void, but weakened by the gusts of wind as it flew toward Jian Wushuang. When it finally approached him, he easily fended it off by brandishing his blood mountain sword. What? Golden Rock King exclaimed in surprise. What else can you do? Come on. Show me, Jian Wushuang said smilingly. Whoosh! Someone suddenly appeared beside Jian Wushuang. What? Jian Wushuang shifted his gaze to the person. It was Tianhuan King, the beautiful and icy woman. She calmly stood there, with a mysterious gem in her hand. There was clearly something weird about the aura of the gem. Is it soul gem? Gu King suddenly said. Soul gem? What's that? Jian Wushuang asked. Soul gem is used to store strength of soul. It's very precious, Gu King said, and then exclaimed, This battlefield is amazing. It's like a giant treasure house. In the eternal chaotic world, universe masters, except the top-notch ones, could never own such types of chaos magic treasures. However, these 3 universe masters from the Jian Kingdom have already taken out quite a few chaos magic treasures by far. The 7-story tower, Tianying King's long whip, and that blood-deadly longbow are all precious chaos magic treasure, especially the tower and the bow. And now this soul gem. It's even more priceless. Tut tut, what a wealthy kingdom. They would make the universe masters and experts at even higher levels in eternal chaotic world envious. It's incredible that these universe masters from the Jian Kingdom have so many treasures. As for your green fire palace, you guys have dominated this battlefield for a much longer time than they did. You must have uncovered even more treasures here. No wonder the 5 palace masters didn't care much about Blaze Quicksand Gourd. Chapter 1148. That person. Chapter 1148. That person. After hearing Gu King's words, Jian Wushuang was speechless with amazement. Even the Jian Kingdom could manage to accumulate so many treasures. The Green Fire Palace must have uncovered a surprising amount of treasures here. As for the most precious ones, they must be in the hands of the 5 palace masters, thought Jian Wushuang. Let's drop the subject now. Gu King, tell me the use of this soul gem, said Jian Wushuang. It stores strength of soul, and her soul gem clearly still contains some strength of soul inside itself. She can use her consciousness to channel the strength out to launch an attack on you. Jian Wushuang, this is an attack fueled by strength of soul. You have to be careful, said Gu King. So this is a soul attack. Jian Wushuang's pupils constricted, but he did not look frightened. Go die, Jian Wushuang, Tianhuan King shouted in a loud, deep voice. In the meantime, the strength of soul flowed out of her soul gem, formed a spine, and then rushed toward Jian Wushuang. What an idiot! It's really stupid to use strength of soul in this way, Gu King observed. Jian Wushuang, You don't need to do anything to fend off this soul attack, because it can never hurt you. Oh. Jian Wushuang had intended to use his own strength of soul to fend it off before, but now he gave up that plan and let the spine hit him directly. The next moment he stood in the void, his eyes slightly closed. Is he dead? Someone asked. Tianhuan King did not reply. Instead, she fixed her gaze upon Jian Wushuang, her face extremely pale. As she herself had not yet acquired any strength of soul, she found it really painful to control such an advanced strength with her consciousness, and barely managed to launch the soul attack. After a while, she said, I've used my soul gem to launch an attack on him. This is soul attack. It's far more powerful than a regular consciousness attack. Even a universe master can't withstand it, let alone a Dao master. He must be... She was stunned before she finished her sentence. In the void in front of her, Jian Wushuang reopened his eyes and winked mockingly at her. That's impossible. That's impossible. Tianhuan King screamed in disbelief. She did not know that Jian Wushuang, who adopted the method of inverse cultivation, was much stronger than an ordinary Dao master. More importantly, she had no idea that he had already ignited his fire of soul. Once someone ignited his or her fire of soul, he or she would be endowed with strength of soul. Under the guidance of Tianhuan King, the strength of soul stored in the soul gem could give a devastating blow to an ordinary universe master, but could hardly affect Jian Wushuang, since he had already ignited his fire of soul. After enduring the attack, he was still alive and well. However, he did not have much energy left after enduring so many attacks. He decided to escape from the clutches of the three kings. Well, I've seen what you can do, universe masters, so please allow me to excuse myself now, Jian Wushuang said smilingly to the three kings, and then turned around, ready to take his departure. You want to escape? No way. Golden Rock King shouted while drawing his blood-deadly longbow. In the meantime, Tianhuan King and Tianying King also rushed toward him combatively. They were both impressed and threatened by Jian Wushuang. In their eyes, he possessed even stronger deterrence than Sunrise Sword Emperor did. They believed that Jian Wushuang was going to pose serious problems for the future of the Jian Kingdom, and thus were determined to kill him here. After all, they probably would not get such a good chance to do so in the future. Jian Wushuang could not help but scoff at the three ferocious and determined kings while shaking his head. I decided to face off against you guys just because I wanted to try out my new powers during a real battle, but now I wanted to leave. None of you are able to make me stay, said Jian Wushuang, his blaze quicksand beginning to form a violent storm again. Swoosh, the storm spread far and wide. In just a split second, the blaze quicksand covered a radius of hundreds of thousands of kilometers. Quicksand realm, shouted Jian Wushuang. Buzz, the invisible powers of the realm took effect. Jian Wushuang had used blaze quicksand for protection during the previous fights, but never summoned a real quicksand realm. Now, when this realm took effect, the three kings suddenly felt that some form of pressure was applied to them. They felt as if they had been dragged into mud or bound by shackles. They were unable to move as fast as before or give full play to their powers. Suddenly, they saw Jian Wushuang turn himself into a flowing light and flee away. Let's go. Let's chase after him. Golden Rock King roared, but no matter how hard he tried, he still fell further and further behind Jian Wushuang. Damn it! My speed is suppressed by this realm. I can't move any faster, Tianhuan King cursed in a deep voice. So is mine, but I can still manage to catch up with him, said Tianying King. Suppressed by Quicksand Realm, both Tianhuan King and Golden Rock King were left far behind by Jian Wushuang. Only Tianying King could keep up with the young man, as speed was always his forte. However, Tianying King could never stop Jian Wushuang on his own. What can we do? What can we do now? Tianhuan King grumbled. There's nothing that we can do. Jian Wushuang's powers are way beyond our imagination. The three of us can never kill him. Now we can only leave him to that person, said Golden Rock King. That person? Tianhuan King and Tianying King were somewhat stunned. These three kings were not the only ones sent out by the Jin Kingdom to kill Jian Wushuang. There was another one deployed on this mission. That person was a secret weapon of the Jin Kingdom. They had planned to keep the existence of this person confidential unless it was absolutely necessary. However, they had no other choice now. I've sent a message to that person. As for whether he'll come to help us, it depends on himself, said Golden Rock King. In the center of the sandstorm, Jian Wushuang was rapidly rushing forward. Seeing the three kings behind himself, he could not help but scoffing at them. How are you, Jian Wushuang? Sunrise Sword Emperor sent him a message. At this moment, 3 of the 5 palace masters of the Green Fire Palace had gathered together in a hall of the palace. The other 2, who were currently on the battlefield, also transmitted their spectral images to the hall and attended the meeting through their powers of consciousness. All of them were nervous upon hearing that Jian Wushuang was ambushed by 3 kings of the Jin Kingdom. Beyond their expectations, Jian Wushuang replied, "Hello, palace masters. I've just engaged the 3 kings in battle. They've used every trick they know, but still failed to kill me. They're still chasing after me right now, but I can shake them off with my Blaze Quicksand Gourd." Chapter 1149, A Red-Haired Youth. Chapter 1149, A Red-Haired Youth. The 5 palace masters were shocked when hearing Jian Wushuang describe the fight between the 3 kings and himself in a relaxed tone. "Are you saying that you've just engaged the 3 kings in battle?" Void Temple Master asked Jian Wushuang in disbelief. "Yes," Jian Wushuang nodded and replied. "And the 3 kings failed to kill you even when they worked together?" asked Void Temple Master. "Yes," Jian Wushuang nodded and replied again. "How is this possible?" All the 5 palace masters were astonished. All the 9 kings of the Jin Kingdom were powerful universe masters with formidable battle strength. Generally speaking, it was just a piece of cake for any one of them to kill a holy master with exceptional realm. When 3 kings worked together, only the most experienced palace masters of the Green Fire Palace, such as Samsara Temple Master and Void Temple Master, could manage to resist them. However, these 3 kings failed to kill Jian Wushuang. The 5 palace masters felt bewildered. "I've reached the levels of a Dao master," Jian Wushuang explained. "Even a Dao master can't be this powerful," Void Temple Master said with a frown. A moment later, he added, "Jian Wushuang, can you tell me how they look and what they're good at? I want to know who they are." "One of them is Tianying King. I've fought against him before. As for the other 2, one is a woman versed in the use of consciousness attack, and the other is a man who uses large axes," Jian Wushuang said, and then described the 2 kings' looks to the palace masters. After hearing his description, the 5 palace masters quickly agreed on who the 2 kings were. The woman is Tianhuan King, and the man is Golden Rock King. They and Tianying King work together to ambush you. Void Temple Master continued with a solemn face. "Among the 3 kings, Golden Rock King is the most powerful one, Tianhuan King is the most crafty one, and Tianying King is the weakest in terms of physical strength. However, this Tianying King is a tough fighter, and he moves exceptionally fast. When working together, they can easily finish off an ordinary universe master." Upon hearing Void Temple Master's analysis, all the other 4 palace masters nodded in agreement. At the same time, They were impressed by Jian Wushuang's performance. Golden Rock King was good at attacking, Tianying King was adept at trapping his enemy, and Tianhuan King was expert in consciousness attacks. They did have the abilities to kill a universe master. Nevertheless, Jian Wushuang had forced them to go all out and managed to survive and escape their clutches. It looks like that we've underestimated Jian Wushuang. Now that he's able to take on 3 kings from the Jian kingdom at the same time, he must have powers similar to those of a universe master. He's just become a Dao master, but is able to compete with us now. When he reaches the levels of a holy master, said Void Temple Master, excitement flickered in his eyes. Jian Wushuang, the Jian kingdom must have noticed your potentials. That's why it wants you dead now. It just has underestimated your powers this time. It'll send some other experts to attack you again. Given this, you must return to Green Fire Palace after shaking off the 3 kings, Samsara Temple Master said solemnly. Yes, Palace Master, Jian Wushuang nodded and replied. He was clear how much the Jian kingdom wanted to kill him. After all, it had sent such a formidable team, consisted of 3 kings, to ambush him. Suddenly, something unexpected happened. What? Jian Wushuang looked forward, his face changed. He maintained his quicksand realm all this while and kept searching his surroundings with his strength of soul while moving forward. At this moment, he sensed that a person was standing in front of him. It was a red-haired youth. He stood there with a spear in hand, looking calm and cool. His aura seemed ordinary, but Jian Wushuang somehow felt overwhelmingly intimidated by him. Is he also a universe master from the Jian kingdom? Jian Wushuang wondered nervously. Being ambushed by 3 kings from the Jian kingdom felt unreal enough, and now another universe master from the Jian kingdom popped out. He seems to have hidden in the shadows all this while. Compared to the other 3 universe masters, he looks even more powerful. Jian Wushuang, I can tell that this universe master before you is not an ordinary one. He's much more powerful than the 3 kings behind you. You have to be very careful, said Gu King. Upon hearing that, Jian Wushuang looked grave. At this moment, the red-haired youth in front of him was staring stonily at him while standing quietly in the void with a spear in his hand. This is really ridiculous. 3 universe masters failed to kill a Dao master. What a bunch of bums. Now let me clean up this mess, said the youth grumpily. He was also on the mission to kill Jian Wushuang. However, he just came to help the 3 kings in case some palace master of the Green Fire Palace suddenly came to Jian Wushuang's rescue. According to his original plan, if there was not such a palace master, he would never join the fight or even reveal himself. Beyond his expectations, it was not some top-notch expert from the Green Fire Palace, but the powers of Jian Wushuang that forced him to come out. He had to join the fight to complete his mission when the 3 kings tried their best, but still failed to kill Jian Wushuang. I'm going to expose myself by engaging Jian Wushuang in battle. By doing so, I won't be able to remain as a hidden trump card until the decisive battle against the Green Fire Palace begins. This can be bad for the Jian kingdom, but I have to kill this incredibly talented youth now. Otherwise, he'll pose a serious threat to us in the future. I cannot give this brat any chance to survive and grow stronger. I must kill him now, even if this will expose myself, thought the red-haired youth. He tightly gripped the long red spear in his hand, and then turned himself into a flowing red light, dashing toward Jian Wushuang. Watch out, Jian Wushuang! Gu King groaned. Jian Wushuang was fully alerted and fixed his gaze upon the flowing red light. When the light reached the edge of his blaze, quicksand storm, he shouted, "Quicksand realm, drive him away!" Jian Wushuang rendered full support to his quicksand realm and urged it to press down on the red-haired youth. Blaze Quicksand roared and pressed on the red-haired youth. Violent storms quickly formed in front of him, blocking his way. However, the Quicksand realm only managed to block him for a second. The next moment, he thrust his long spear forward, while shouting, "Cleave through the storm." Suddenly, it began to snow in the void, which surrounded them, and the snowflakes looked as red as blood. The icy spear, head dashed forward with remarkable speed and ferocity. Swoosh! It cut through the sandstorms. The next moment, he thrust his spear further into the storms to attack Jian Wushuang. Upon seeing the spear rapidly approaching, Jian Wushuang could only use his swordplay of coalescence to counterattack. He gave full play to the power of first move of the Heaven's Bane. Chapter 1150, Red Snow King. Chapter 1150, Red Snow King. Bang! Two formidable forces clashed, and the force of the red-haired youth quickly gained the upper hand. Jian Wushuang's Blood Mountain sword was forced slightly aside, and the long red spear continued to rush toward the chest of Jian Wushuang. Clang! It sounded like a clunk of metal smashing into metal when the spear hit Jian Wushuang's scarlet robe, which was actually his blood-killing plate armor. The robe absorbed 90% of the spear's energy, but the remaining energy still spread into his body, causing considerable damage to him. He felt as if his insides had been set on fire and spouted out a mouthful of blood. How come he's so powerful? He cast a vigilant look at the red-haired youth. Before the spear hit him, its powers had been eroded by the quicksand realm and the sandstorms, and then been counteracted by his first move of the Heaven's Bane. However, it still severely wounded him. Its power grew less and less as it approached him, but the level of its remaining powers still went beyond that of an all-out attack from an ordinary universe master. He must be a top-notch universe master. Run, Jian Wushuang! Run! Gu King urged. Jian Wushuang was well aware that he was unable to compete with this red-haired youth. Therefore, the moment he managed to stand on his feet, he immediately activated his strength of soul and used his dragon blood secret skill to flee. Upon seeing that Jian Wushuang was still alive after withstanding the blow, the red-haired youth was quite surprised. When the young man started to flee, he snorted coldly and chased after him. While escaping, Jian Wushuang managed to contact the 5 Palace Masters. Palace Masters, I've just encountered another universe master from the Jian Kingdom. He's way more powerful than the 3 kings. I'm confident that I can shake off the kings, but I'm not sure if I can escape from him, said Jian Wushuang hastily. Another universe master? Are you saying that you're ambushed by 4 kings? All the palace masters of the Green Fire Palace were startled. Jian Wushuang, you're able to easily escape from Tianhuan King, Golden Rock King, and Tianying King. Who else among the 9 kings of the Jian Kingdom is able to stop you? Void Temple Master asked with a frown. Yeah, who else? The 9 kings of the Jian Kingdom are of almost equal strength. None of them is exceptionally powerful. Tang Emperor echoed. Tell us more about this universe master. How does he look? What can he do? Asked Sunrise Sword Emperor. He's a red-haired youth, and his weapon is a long red spear. He's much more powerful than Golden Rock King, at least a dozen times stronger. He has severely wounded me with just 1 stab. Oh, when he wields his spear, there are red snowflakes falling down. A red-haired universe master who's a dozen times stronger than Golden Rock King. He uses a long spear, and when he wields it, there are red snowflakes. The 5 palace masters mused in silence. The next moment, Samsara Temple Master and Void Temple Master looked frantic simultaneously, and their pupils suddenly constricted. It's Red Snow King. It's him. Void Temple Master exclaimed in astonishment. What? Red Snow King? Tang Emperor, Sunrise Sword Emperor, and Red Lotus turned pale with fright and asked in disbelief. How is it possible? Red Snow King was killed during the battle between the Jian Kingdom and us 5 million years ago. How come he's still alive? Void Temple Master spoke with a trembling voice. I can't believe that he's still alive. Samsara Temple Master exclaimed in a hard, cold voice. 5 million years ago, when experts of the Jian Kingdom had first come to this battlefield, they had more than 9 kings. Instead, there were 14 kings among them. This Red Snow King was the strongest one among the kings. Despite the fact that he was also a universe master, he was way more powerful than the other 13 kings. He was definitely a top-notch universe master. 5 million years ago, the Green Fire Palace had fought a last-ditch battle against experts from the Jian Kingdom and sacrificed a lot to kill Red Snow King on the battleground. However, no one else than Red Snow King could severely wound Jian Wushuang with just one stab, so this universe master with a long spear in hand must have been Red Snow King. Red Snow King is far stronger than an ordinary universe master. Among all experts in the Green Fire Palace, only Samsara Temple Master is able to resist him with the help of some treasures. The other palace masters can only escape when encountering him. Red Snow King is well known for his amazing speed and formidable offensive power. He's also on this mission to kill Jian Wushuang. This boy is really in danger, said Tang Emperor. Samsara, you're out on the battlefield right now. How long will it take for you to reach Jian Wushuang if you travel as fast as you can? Asked Void Temple Master. Yes, I'm on the battlefield, but quite distant from his location. I guess I need at least several days to reach him, sighed Samsara Temple Master. Several days. The other 4 palace masters exclaimed simultaneously. The situation looked grim for them. Red Snow King was after Jian Wushuang at this moment. It would be lucky for the boy to resist him for a few hours, not to mention several days. Upon hearing the reply of Samsara Temple Master, Jian Wushuang, who was busy running away from Red Snow King, knew that he could only rely on himself now. Several days, he murmured to himself with a frown, and then turned his head to look back. The next moment, his pupils constricted. Not far behind him, Red Snow King spread a pair of golden wings, which enabled him to move even faster than before. Suppressed by Jian Wushuang's quicksand realm, he still moved a little bit faster than the boy. Upon seeing that, Jian Wushuang made up his mind. Palace Masters, you don't need to worry about me anymore. I'll try my best to make the Jian Kingdom suffer. With these words, he halted the communication. The 5 palace masters of the Green Fire Palace were rendered speechless after hearing his words. They knew clearly what Jian Wushuang was going to do. As he could not escape from the grip of Red Snow King, he intended to face off against this mighty universe master and try his best to cause losses to the Jian Kingdom even at the cost of his own life. Alas, Tang Emperor sighed, feeling helpless. In the meantime, Jian Wushuang looked unprecedentedly determined on the battlefield. Chapter 1151, Determination. Chapter 1151, Determination. I've never expected that I would get ambushed by experts from the Jian Kingdom right after I became a Dao Master. It looks like this original body of mine is doomed, Jian Wushuang said gravely, but still had a smile on his face. Gu King, get prepared. I'll create a chance for you to escape with all my treasures. Have you already made up your mind? Jian Wushuang asked Gu King solemnly. Yeah, Jian Wushuang nodded and said, this original body of mine is definitely going to perish. This Red Snow King is exceptionally strong and fast. I can't shake him off with the help of my quicksand realm and even my dragon blood secret skill, and it's impossible for experts of the Green Fire Palace to come to my rescue in time. I have two original bodies. When this one is gone, I'll come back to life through the other one. It's not a big deal. However, I really need you to keep all my treasures for me. I see, said Gu King said. You can hand over blood-killing plate armor and blood mountain sword to me. What about Blaze quicksand gourd? Jian Wushuang carried 3 treasures with this original body, which included blood-killing plate armor, blood mountain sword, and Blaze quicksand gourd. As for the more precious treasures, such as Mountain River Map, they had been left with the other original body of Jian Wushuang. I need this Blaze quicksand gourd during the fight, so I can't give it to you. Maybe I'll lose it in the end, but I can accept this result. Jian Wushuang paused for a moment and continued, beside the 2 treasures you've mentioned, I'll give you 2 drops of ancient god power, some elixir which can restore your spiritual power, and some other treasures except Blaze quicksand gourd. You have to take all of them away. If you can't, destroy them. I can't let my enemies have them. Of course, the most important thing is that you have to keep yourself safe. Jian Wushuang emphasized. Gu King had been parasitic in him for so many years. He had begun to treat him like family a long time ago. He was willing to give up all his treasures, even his blood-killing plate armor and blood mountain sword, to ensure that Gu King could survive. Don't worry, I'm a seasoned warrior. I accompanied King Luo Zhan everywhere when he was exploring the eternal chaotic world. Although I'm not so powerful as before, which is because I've recognized you as my owner, a universe master can never kill me, Gu King said confidently. That's good. Jian Wushuang smiled slightly. He continued to escape, and when he spotted a high mountain in front of him, excitement flickered within his eyes. Here, it's near the Chillywind Valley. With these words, he clenched his fists to stop himself and suddenly turned around. Buzz, he absorbed a drop of ancient god power. The next moment, his aura got much stronger. Go die! He shouted loudly and rushed toward Red Snow King. You just can't wait to die. Red Snow King sneered and thrust his long spear toward Jian Wushuang. As the spear was pushed forward violently, red snowflakes drifted down, making the fighting scenes beautiful and eye-catching. Jian Wushuang propelled his sword forward, making a slight whistling sound. In an instant, his soul attack reached Red Snow King with strong destructive powers and killing intent from the killing bead. What? This consciousness attack seems to be as fierce as the one launched by Tianhuan King. Red Snow King thought, grim-faced. However, Jian Wushuang's soul attack failed to exert much influence on Red Snow King. The latter's long spear was as powerful as before and quickly clashed against Blood Mountain Sword. Clang! After the loud clunk, Red Snow King twisted his wrist to rotate his spear, creating a vortex in the void, and then hurled it at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang did not have enough time to dodge. All he could do at that time was lifting up his Blood Mountain sword to block the spear. Bang! The next moment, he was knocked away. He flew backward until he bumped into the high mountain behind him. He smashed into the mountain and was buried by the gravel. Here you are. Keep them for me, Gu King, Jian Wushuang said as he tossed out an interspatial ring, which contained blood-killing plate armor, Blood Mountain sword, and many other treasures he had collected before. In the meantime, a flowing red light shone across the place where Jian Wushuang landed. It was Plenilune Centipede, Gu King. It had not appeared too bulky this time. It caught the interspatial ring with his mouth, swallowed it down, and tunneled into the mountain and then the ground, hurriedly fleeing away from this place. Boom! Jian Wushuang flew out of the mountain and then toward the Chillywind Valley. What? Red Snow King was a little surprised. He had been fixed his gaze upon Jian Wushuang all this while and naturally noticed Gu King. Worm beast. Red Snow King wondered. No matter what it is, I'll kill it. Red Snow King had a strong killing intent. He used his consciousness to lock on Gu King and then swished his hand to launch a fierce attack on it. After that, he continued to chase after Jian Wushuang. Boom! Red Snow King's offensive power penetrated the ground and reached Gu King, but it only affected its speed instead of killing it. In the end, it still managed to sneak into the deepest part of the earth and disappeared. Swoosh! Swoosh! Red Snow King was closely after Jian Wushuang, and behind them were Tianhuan King, Golden Rock King, and Tianying King. However, these three kings were quite far away from them now. Without Gu King's help, Jian Wushuang was unable to restore his powers as easily as before. To make matters worse, the dragon blood secret skill he used to escape kept draining away his spiritual power. As such, he could not sustain himself like this for a very long time. Given this, he decided to go to the place he always wanted to visit. Soon enough, Jian Wushuang and Red Snow King saw a vast sinkhole. The Chillywind Valley. Jian Wushuang rushed toward the center of the sinkhole. Excitement flickered in his eyes. When he arrived at the center of the sinkhole, he stopped. Buzz, the blaze quicksand around him dispersed. He stood there, pale and gasping feebly, but he did not look frightened. Swoosh! The red-haired Red Snow King arrived and stopped in front of Jian Wushuang. As for Tianhuan King, Golden Rock King, and Tianying King, they were still far away from this sinkhole. Jian Wushuang, why don't you continue to escape? Red Snow King said while looking coldly at Jian Wushuang. I'm running out of spiritual power, and I'm chased by Red Snow King, the strongest king of the Jian Kingdom. I can't escape from you, even though I wish I could do that, replied Jian Wushuang, smilingly. Chapter 1152, Inside the Chillywind Valley, Part 1. Chapter 1152, Inside the Chillywind Valley, Part 1. Red Snow King did not feel very surprised when he heard Jian Wushuang call him by his real name. He knew that he would be exposed once he showed his powers. Jian Wushuang, I really admire your ability. You're only a Dao master, but you managed to escape from the three kings of the Jian Kingdom, and even I must spend much energy to catch you. It's amazing, Red Snow King said smilingly. You are a genius, a real genius. Although we all live in the eternal chaotic world, there are few geniuses like you. Unfortunately, if an extraordinary genius dies, he'll be a loser. Today you must die. You're right. I admit that I'm doomed to die today, but I'll never die at the hands of an expert from the Jian Kingdom. I won't give your country an extra advantage. Jian Wushuang said coldly. What? Red Snow King said with surprise. Have you seen the huge sinkhole at your feet? Jian Wushuang asked suddenly. Red Snow King glanced at the deep and mysterious sinkhole, but he didn't see anything. I discovered the sinkhole long ago, and I named it Chillywind Valley. Jian Wushuang laughed. It is huge and deep beyond my imagination, but I don't know whether there is a big opportunity or a natural impasse in it. I've always been curious about what lies at the bottom of the hole, but I never had the courage to find out before. Now that I'm doomed to die, I've decided to go down there to see whether it's an opportunity or an impasse at the bottom of Chillywind Valley. Do you want to make a bet with me? Jian Wushuang asked. He looked very relaxed. Red Snow King became a little anxious. Ha! If you are not afraid to die, you should follow me. Otherwise, you have to let me go. Jian Wushuang grinned broadly at Red Snow King. Boom! A strong aura suddenly burst out from the body of Jian Wushuang again. The small amount of spiritual power that was left in his body began to revive. He flew directly to the bottom of the mysterious sinkhole like a falling stone. As he left, he swallowed several of the remaining elixir pills that could make him regain spiritual power and a drop of ancient god power. Obviously, he was at the point of no return. Upon seeing that, Red Snow King frowned and began to think about it. He looked at the bottomless and mysterious sinkhole, and then he felt a natural fear. There must be something that could threaten him at the bottom of the sinkhole. However, Jian Wushuang was already frantically falling to the bottom of the sinkhole. If he didn't follow, he wouldn't know whether Jian Wushuang was dead or alive. Do I go or not? After a moment's thought, he decided to enter the sinkhole. He's just a Tao master, but he dares to go into that sinkhole. I have no reason to fear him. Besides, it was difficult for me to put him in this situation. If I don't continue to hunt him down, he'll probably survive due to some opportunity. If that happens, it'll be a nightmare for the Jian kingdom. Red Snow King thought to himself, I can't disregard my previous efforts, so I must kill him now. His eyes gradually became scarlet, and then he spread his red and gold wings behind him. In an instant, he turned into a red and gold flowing light rushing to the bottom of the sinkhole. Seeing Jian Wushuang and Red Snow King fly into the sinkhole, Heaven Illusion King, Golden Rock King, and Heaven Shadow King, who were standing in the void above the sinkhole, all frowned. What should we do? Should we follow them? Heaven Shadow King asked. There aren't any records about the Chillywind Valley in the Jian Kingdom, so we don't know what lies at the bottom of the sinkhole. However, as they've already entered the sinkhole, we shouldn't just stay here and wait, said Golden Rock King. Considering Red Snow King's battle strength, it should be a piece of cake for him to kill Jian Wushuang, but I'm afraid there might be something at the bottom of the hole that will help Jian Wushuang escape. Furthermore, if Red Snow King dies there, it'll be a huge loss to the Jian Kingdom. Therefore, we'd better follow him and help, said Heaven Illusion King. We should leave now. There are indeed a lot of natural dangerous lands on the battlefield, but few can threaten us. I think we won't meet them, but we should be careful. If we notice that something is wrong, we will quickly escape. Heaven Shadow King said. Okay. Golden Rock King and Heaven Illusion King nodded in agreement. They immediately moved and flew to the bottom of the Chillywind Valley. In Chillywind Valley, Jian Wushuang was using the Dragon Blood secret skill, and he unleashed his strength of soul to its maximum. When he saw the 4 kings of the Jian Kingdom follow him and enter the valley one after another, he laughed coldly. He had said that he knew nothing about the Chillywind Valley, which was a lie. In fact, it was quite clear to him that there was something dreadful inside the Chillywind Valley. Since he chose to burst into the valley, he was ready to give up this original body. However, he would try his best to make the Jian Kingdom pay the price before that. The greater the cost, the better. That's great. For kings of the Jian Kingdom. Red Snow King is the strongest among them. 5 million years ago, the people of the Green Fire Palace spent much time and energy to defeat him. They thought they had killed him at that time, but he was still alive. And the Chillywind Valley. Before long, the blood-cold wind inside this hole will start to blow. Let me see whether it is powerful enough to finish him off. Jian Wushuang thought to himself. He had once witnessed the power of the blood-cold wind personally and believed that it was a terrible weapon. He wasn't sure, however, whether he could kill Red Snow King with this weapon. As for the 3 other kings from the Jian Kingdom, Jian Wushuang laughed coldly. Their strengths and skills are far weaker than those of Red Snow King. If they're attacked by the terrible blood cold wind, they'll die. I have to make sure that they don't have a chance to escape from this blood cold wind. Suddenly, boom, a roar came from the bottom of the huge hole. Meanwhile, the whole world began to tremble fiercely, becoming stronger and stronger. Chapter 1153, Chillywind Valley, Part 2. Chapter 1153, Chillywind Valley, Part 2. What? Jian Wushuang's expression shifted ever so slightly. The huge change in the Chillywind Valley was well within his expectations, but he did not think that it would come this early. There would be a burst of blood-cold wind every hour, each burst lasting only 10 breaths. His plan was to lure Red Snow King and the other 3 to the bottom of the valley so that the blood-cold wind would kill them. However, aside from Red Snow King, who was the first to enter the valley, it was likely that Heaven Illusion King, Golden Rock King, and Heaven Shadow King would escape as soon as they detected the change in the valley. They might just run out of the attack range of the blood cold wind. Looks like luck isn't on my side. Jian Wushuang shook his head and sighed. He had no choice but to take action now that the blood cold wind was about to erupt again. The 4 kings of the Jian kingdom, who was flying overhead, stopped in their tracks when they noticed the huge change in the valley. This is... Red Snow King fixed his eyes on the space beneath his feet, but saw nothing except pitch-black darkness. He could not help feeling frightened as he felt the world tremble around him and hear the series of explosions coming from the bottom of the valley. It was an instinctual kind of fear. He had never felt this alarmed in his entire life. "Run! Run now!" Red Snow King bellowed. He immediately turned around to rush out of the valley. Heaven Illusion King, Golden Rock King, and Heaven Shadow King became anxious and followed suit without hesitation. "Ha ha! You're only trying to run now. Will you succeed? Stay here, all of you. Die with me." Manic laughter reverberated throughout the valley. Jian Wushuang, who stood nearest to the bottom of the valley, held a golden gourd tightly in his hand. Under his guidance, the mighty blaze quicksand gushed out of the gourd and charged toward the 4 kings like a raging tsunami. The sand had already gushed out of the gourd when the 4 kings tried to run. Carrying with it a green flame, the quicksand swiftly covered all the 4 kings hovering above Jian Wushuang. With the quicksand realm fully activated, their speed was restricted as they tried to escape. Moreover, the rapidly expanding sandstorm was also rushing toward them. "Humph! Scram at once!" Red Snow King shouted in anger. Blood-like flames bathed his body, burning the sand that neared him to ashes. He still moved swiftly, as he was only partially affected by the quicksand realm. Heaven Shadow King had been the fastest among the other 3 kings, and was also the first to escape. Thus, the impact he suffered was also the greatest. Under Jian Wushuang's guidance, a large amount of blaze quicksand converged to form a massive hand. The sand firmly caught hold of Heaven Shadow King. No matter how much Heaven Shadow King struggled, each time he escaped from the shackles of the sand, a new layer of sand would cover him. "Help me! Hurry up and help me!" he cried mournfully, his voice thundering. However, he soon realized that the other 3 were preoccupied with running for their lives. They could not even protect themselves, much less worry about rescuing him. Boom! Over in the bottom of the valley, the blood-cold wind that had been quietly accumulating finally erupted. The terrifying wind ripped through everything as it soared from the bottom of the valley like a volcanic eruption. It moved so swiftly that it swept Jian Wushuang, Red Snow King, and Heaven Shadow King, who were still in the sinkhole. On the other hand, Heaven Illusion King and Golden Rock King were lucky enough to run out of the range of the blood-cold wind. If Jian Wushuang was equipped with the blood-killing plate armor, he would likely be able to momentarily endure the wind even without his defensive capability. However, the wind was crushing his unarmored body. Just as he was about to lose consciousness, he saw what happened to Red Snow King and Heaven Shadow King. Red Snow King had taken out a token and was desperately struggling against the blood-cold wind. Meanwhile, Heaven Shadow King suffered the same fate as Jian Wushuang and was instantly crushed. Somewhere nearby, the Chillywind Valley. Heaven Illusion King and Golden Rock King, who were lucky enough to run out of the valley, watched in horror. The endless gale, carrying a fearsome power, had destroyed everything in its path. The two universe masters felt fear from the bottom of their hearts. They knew they would have died if they had entered deep into the Chillywind Valley earlier. What a terrifying gale! Heaven Illusion King exclaimed. The wind swept both Red Snow King and Heaven Shadow King, so they should. Golden Rock King muttered. Whoosh! Out of the blue, a golden flowing light burst out of the gale and appeared in front of them. It was Red Snow King. He was pale and bloodied all over. Half of his red and golden wings were broken. Our Red Snow King, Heaven Illusion King, and Golden Rock King stared at him. They could see what a miserable state that Red Snow King was in. Red Snow King clenched his teeth and said in a low voice, I used a life-saving secret skill and suffered a great loss. I need to go into seclusion at once. Jian Wushuang, Heaven Illusion King, did not finish his sentence. Both he and Heaven Shadow King are dead. Their treasures must have fallen to the bottom of the valley. If you too have guts, feel free to go and pick them up, Red Snow King said coldly. Heaven Illusion King and Golden Rock King began to tremble as they glanced at the Chillywind Valley in horror. They dared not enter the valley again after experiencing the terrifying gale earlier. Let's go. Let's go back right now. The three of them immediately left. Right then, the second original body of Jian Wushuang, who had been meditating his sword principle inside a secret chamber in Green Fire Palace, opened his eyes. He clenched his hands tightly. Though I've lost my first original body and Blaze Quicksand Gourd, I managed to kill a universe master from the Jian Kingdom. Moreover, even if Red Snow King is still alive, he still sustained grave injuries. It's worth it. Chapter 1154, The Shock of the Palace Masters. Chapter 1154, The Shock of the Palace Masters. The 5 Palace Masters gathered together in the Green Fire Palace, including 3 original bodies and 2 consciousness. They looked very unhappy. The Jian Kingdom, the Sunrise Sword Emperor said with cold eyes. He clenched his hands tightly, and his teeth were chattering. Jian Wushuang has reached the level of a Dao Master and has the same strength as us, so he is likely to be the leader of the Green Fire Palace in the future. But now, the Samsara Temple Master sighed, slightly. Although I didn't believe in his strength before, I hoped that he would exceed my expectation and then become the leader of the Green Fire Palace. I didn't think that he would be assassinated in the Jian Kingdom. Red Lotus said coldly. Although the 5 Palace Masters had very high hopes for Jian Wushuang, their main concern was about the Green Fire Palace. They had hoped that there would be a leader in the Green Fire Palace. Therefore, whenever a genius or an expert died, they would grieve. Hearing that Jian Wushuang had died, they were deeply grieved. At this moment, Tang Emperor's expression changed, and then he turned to look at the other palace masters. Please follow me. They felt very confused, but they still followed him. Tang Emperor led them to a secret chamber in the Green Fire Palace. There was no light inside the secret chamber. When the 5 palace masters arrived, a figure appeared out of nowhere. 5 palace masters. Jian Wushuang, who was dressed in a black robe, gave a salute to the 5 palace masters politely. Everyone aside from Tang Emperor was very surprised. Jian Wushuang, you are not dead. Red Lotus screamed at first. Is it your original form rather than your consciousness? Samsara Temple Master stared at Jian Wushuang, and then he realized that Jian Wushuang was indeed an original body rather than a short consciousness like him. Did your doppelganger fight with them in the battlefield? That's not right. Why would your doppelganger have such strength? Samsara Temple Master, Void Temple Master, and the other people all felt surprised. It was indeed my original body that appeared in the battlefield, and it has died. However, I have long had 2 original bodies. Jian Wushuang said with a smile. 2 original bodies? All of the palace masters were very stunned. They knew that one could have an original body and a doppelganger, but they never imagined he would have 2 original bodies. Because of inverse cultivation, Void Temple Master stared at Jian Wushuang as if his eyes contained electricity. In fact, they already knew that Jian Wushuang was an inverse cultivator. Yes, Jian Wushuang laughed and nodded. An inverse cultivator has 2 original bodies. If he loses one original body, the other one will find a way to recover it. The 4 palace masters looked at each other and felt very incredulous. They had heard of inverse cultivation, but they only knew a little about it. Among the 5 palace masters, Tang Emperor knew it best. Tang Emperor, did you know Jian Wushuang has 2 original bodies? Red Lotus looked at him. I knew. Tang Emperor nodded slightly and then laughed. My disciple Little Qing is also an inverse cultivator and has 2 original bodies, but nobody knows except me. Well, you knew that Jian Wushuang wouldn't die, but you didn't tell us, so we were worried and grieved for him. Red Lotus snorted, but in his heart he felt relaxed. Samsara Temple Master, Void Temple Master, and Sunrise Sword Emperor all laughed. They thought that Jian Wushuang, a peerless genius, had died, but they didn't think that he just lost an original body. Inverse cultivation is really terrible. Samsara Temple Master gasped in admiration, and then turned to look at Jian Wushuang. He asked, you said that your original body on the battlefield had died. What about Red Snow King and the other people? Are they dead? I already knew that the original body would die, so I used myself as bait and set a trap for the 4 kings of the Jian kingdom. Jian Wushuang answered, there is a perilous place in those mountains that I call Chillywind Valley. In the Chillywind Valley, a mass blood cold wind always bursts out every hour. I experienced its power personally last time. Moreover, I'm the only one who knew of the danger in the Chillywind Valley and the rules on the outbreak of blood cold wind. The 4 kings of the Jian kingdom didn't know that, so I burst into the valley with a mortal heart, and the 4 kings all followed me. After a while, the blood cold wind burst out. My original body was smashed in an instant. Heaven Shadow King also died. Red Snow King is very strong, so I don't know if he died. If he is still alive, he must have suffered heavy injuries. Jian Wushuang spoke in a low but powerful voice. Hearing this, the 5 palace masters were all shocked. Jian Wushuang should used that original body as bait, and then set a trap for those 4 kings. And then, is Heaven Shadow King dead? Is Red Snow King dead or alive? The 5 palace masters looked at each other with shock in their eyes. The kings from the Jian kingdom were real universe master experts. Every universe master expert was very strong. A universe master was a respectable person in the universe and was supreme in the eternal world. It was very difficult to kill such a top expert, wasn't it? The Green Fire Palace had been fighting with the Jian Kingdom for 5 million years. In the former Mad War, they had fiercely fought against each other. Only several universe masters were killed. Almost no universe master had died ever since. Yet, Jian Wushuang had actually directly killed one universe master. More surprisingly, no one knew whether Red Snow King, who was the strongest, was dead or alive. The 5 palace masters began to look at Jian Wushuang with different attitudes. They felt very surprised when they found out that Jian Wushuang could escape from Heaven Illusion King, Golden Rock King, and Heaven Shadow King at leisure before, but they didn't think that he was really on par with them. He was likely to have the strong skill to protect himself. Now, however, Jian Wushuang had actually killed a universe master. Although he had taken advantage of the danger of the Chillywind Valley to succeed, the 5 palace masters admitted his position in their hearts. In fact, they didn't know that the 4 kings were lucky. The blood cold wind had burst out soon after they entered the Chillywind Valley. If the blood cold wind had burst out a little later when they had completely entered the valley and had no time to escape, all of the 4 kings would have probably been killed. Chapter 1155, The Odd Thing. Chapter 1155, The Odd Thing. The 4 kings of the Jian Kingdom, including Red Snow King, entered the Chillywind Valley personally, but they didn't kill you and lost Heaven Shadow King instead. What's worse, Red Snow King is probably dead. The Jian Kingdom has paid a double penalty this time. Void Temple Master laughed. Had they sustained too many losses? The Jian Kingdom had indeed suffered great losses this time. They had paid a great price but failed to kill Jian Wushuang, who was a potential threat to them. It was so terrible. Jian Wushuang was still alive. He only lost his first original body and some treasures which had a marginal effect on him. The Jian Kingdom has paid such a great price but didn't kill Jian Wushuang. If they find out about it, they will become wild with anger. Samsara Temple Master snorted. Jian Wushuang is dead. Tang Emperor said, suddenly. What? The 4 other palace masters and Jian Wushuang immediately turned to look at Tang Emperor. The reason why the people of the Jian Kingdom are eager to kill Jian Wushuang is that they are afraid that he has the potential to be the leader of our Green Fire Palace and reach a higher level in the future. Now that Jian Wushuang's first original body has died, they must think that Jian Wushuang has really died, which is a good thing for us. Tang Emperor explained. Do you mean that we will hide Jian Wushuang? Sunrise Sword Emperor raised his eyebrows and asked. Yes, we will hide him. To be precise, we need to keep the secret that Jian Wushuang is still alive. Otherwise, they will find other ways to assassinate him and secretly observe Jian Wushuang in the future. If necessary, they will even fight a decisive battle with us preemptively until both sides are dead. Tang Emperor said, seriously. Upon hearing this, Jian Wushuang and the 4 palace masters wore grave expressions. In terms of their battle formation, the Jian Kingdom was very eager to kill Jian Wushuang. If they knew that Jian Wushuang was still alive, they were sure to find another way to assassinate him. The Jian Kingdom thinks that Jian Wushuang is dead now, so we should ask Jian Wushuang to hide while he becomes stronger, so that he can be a powerful weapon of the Green Fire Palace in the future. At the crucial moment, he is likely to play an incredible role. Tang Emperor continued. You're right. I agree with you. The trump card is always hidden in a secret place. Jian Wushuang is qualified to be our trump card. After some hesitation, the 4 other palace masters nodded, showing that they all agreed with Tang Emperor. What do you think? Tang Emperor looked at Jian Wushuang. As long as it is for the benefit of the Green Fire Palace, I agree. Jian Wushuang laughed. Well, You shouldn't show up on the battlefield later, and shouldn't make contact with the celestial masters of the Green Fire Palace. We, palace masters, will announce your death, and only the 5 of us will know that you are still alive. Tang Emperor continued. Okay. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. Jian Wushuang didn't care about whether he could still make contact with the celestial masters. On the other hand, it was a pity that he couldn't appear on the battlefield, but he could also accept it. Since I am not allowed to go to the battlefield, I will return to the Green Fire world because I have something private to deal with in that place. Jian Wushuang said, You can go to the Green Fire world, but remember to keep a low profile. If you need to fight with others, you should hide your identity. If you get into trouble and can act personally, you should send a message to Samsara Temple Master and Void Temple Master, and then they will help you solve your problem in the Void Continent or Samsara Continent. Tang Emperor said, I understand. Jian Wushuang laughed. He knew that some spies from the Jian Kingdom were hiding in the Green Fire world, so he was supposed to keep a low profile. Otherwise, he would probably betray himself. Tang Emperor paused for a moment and then spoke again. There is another thing. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang and the 4 other palace masters all stared at him. I feel something strange about the assassination attempt of the Jian Kingdom. Tang Emperor said, seriously. Something strange. Jian Wushuang was a little confused. You said that you fell into the trap of the 3 kings of Jian Kingdom, but you should remember that the battlefield is huge. How did they know that you fly around the mountains alone? Did they set a trap and wait for you? Tang Emperor looked at Jian Wushuang as he asked. Hearing these words, Jian Wushuang and the other people felt very confused. Jian Wushuang frowned. He also felt that something was wrong, but he had no time to think about it before. Jian Wushuang, did you meet some experts from the Jian Kingdom when you flew near the Chillywind Valley? Samsara Temple Master looked at him. No. Jian Wushuang shook his head. He only met the 4 kings in the battlefield, but never met an expert from the Jian Kingdom throughout. Could some experts from the Jian Kingdom have approached you, but you didn't notice them? Samsara Temple Master asked. That's impossible. Jian Wushuang shook his head again and spoke with confidence. He was very sure that no experts of the Jian Kingdom had approached him. Otherwise, he would have found them out early on. After he became a Dao Master, he lit the fire of soul and possessed strength of soul. If he exercised the strength of soul, he would be able to discover even a universe master who was hiding near him. Therefore, it was impossible for those experts to approach him secretly. You said that you didn't meet any experts from the Jian Kingdom, but they knew your location and set a trap ahead of time. There are only 2 possible reasons they were able to do this, Samsara Temple Master said in a low voice. First, an expert of the Jian Kingdom probably left a special mark on your body during the Battle of Dan Exine Palace so that they could pinpoint your location. That's impossible, Sunrise Sword Emperor suddenly said. I saw Jian Wushuang outside the Dan Exine Palace, and then took him to the World of Swords. If there was a special mark on his body, I would have noticed it. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded. Gu King, who had a high vision and strong psychic ability, had stayed in that original body. He would have told Jian Wushuang if there was a mark in his body. There is the other possibility. Some spies or renegades are hiding in the Green Fire Palace, and they told the Jian Kingdom Jian Wushuang's location. Samsara Temple Master said coldly, Spies or renegades? Hearing this, the other 4 kings became very serious. Chapter 1156, The Death. Chapter 1156, The Death. Jian Wushuang, did you meet the holy masters from the Green Fire Palace when you flew around Chillywind Valley? Have you told your location to others? Samsara Temple Master asked. I'm sure that I didn't meet experts from the Jian Kingdom and the people from our Green Fire Palace at that moment. As for my location, Jian Wushuang suddenly felt surprised. Celestial Master Golden Axe knows. What? Celestial Master Golden Axe? The 5 palace masters immediately looked at Jian Wushuang. Celestial Master Golden Axe is the only person who knows my location, Jian Wushuang said. He continued, Celestial Master Golden Axe seemed to get into trouble on the battlefield and wanted several holy masters who had reached the level of the exceptional realm to help him, so he sent a message to me. I promised him that I would come, but I realized that his strength was far superior to mine, so I gave up. It was because he sent the message to me that I told him my location. Has Celestial Master Golden Axe really done it? The 5 palace masters all frowned. Celestial Master Golden Axe was indeed a good man with a good reputation in the Green Fire Palace. He once fought against the Jian Kingdom on behalf of the Green Fire Palace, and even killed several holy masters from the Jian Kingdom. He went through fire and water for his own friends, but he never cared about the favor that others owed him. Was he really the spy from the Jian Kingdom? In fact, I suspected that there was a spy from the Jian Kingdom in our Green Fire Palace long before. Samsara Temple Master frowned, and then said, Our Green Fire Palace sent Ji Wuming to exorcise Samsara at a great expense before, and we were very careful about it. Therefore, the Jian Kingdom shouldn't know about this matter, but they did. I guessed that it was our people who revealed the confidence at that moment, but I didn't think that it was Celestial Master Golden Axe. It's difficult to understand a man. Read, Lotus shouted coldly with clenched hands. He has only appeared for less than 5 million years and knew the matters about Jian Wuming and Jian Wushuang. He is likely to be the spy from the Jian Kingdom, Void Temple Master said in a low voice. It's too early to assert that he is the spy because we have no hard evidence now. If we go and find him, he probably won't admit it. But we have no way now because he is indeed very popular in the Green Fire Palace. Tang Emperor said, It's very easy for us to find some hard evidence, Sunrise Sword Emperor said. Shall we draw the snake out of its hole? What should we do? Jian Wushuang and the other palace masters all stared at Sunrise Sword Emperor. They think that Jian Wushuang has been assassinated at this moment. If Celestial Master Golden Axe is the real spy, he must be a little scared. Therefore, it is not easy for us to get him out now. We should wait, and then begin our action after he lets down his guard, Sunrise Sword Emperor suggested. Okay. The other 4 palace masters all nodded. So you'd better stay in the Green Fire Palace for some days. After we know who is the real spy, you can leave, okay? Tang Emperor looked at Jian Wushuang. Okay. Jian Wushuang nodded. Well, there is another thing that needs the help of a palace master. What? You can feel free to say it. Void Temple Master laughed. The 5 palace masters regarded Jian Wushuang as an expert with the same strength as them. If they did not intend to hide him, they would probably announce that Jian Wushuang would become the 6th palace master of the Green Fire Palace. My dead original body carried a lot of treasures and an insect beast. When I was chased by Red Snow King and knew that I couldn't escape, I asked the insect beast to fly away with those treasures in advance. And then my original body was smashed in Chillywind Valley. The Blaze quicksand gourd was likely to fall into the bottom of the valley, so we could hardly get it again. However, my other treasures and that insect beast still remain on that battlefield. So, I want to ask a palace master to go there and bring that insect beast back. After all, I can't go to that battlefield at this moment. Jian Wushuang laughed. It's simple, and I can help you, Samsara Temple Master said with a smile, My original body is also on the battlefield and is not far away from there, so I'd be glad to bring your insect beast back personally. Sorry to trouble you, Jian Wushuang gratefully said. It's my pleasure. You need to tell me where your insect beast is. Samsara Temple Master thought that it was nothing, and then smiled. After that, the 5 palace masters talked about it with Jian Wushuang for more than half a day, and then left while Jian Wushuang continued to stay in the secret chamber. Moreover, Tang Emperor also stayed there to keep Jian Wushuang from being discovered. Meanwhile, the 5 palace masters immediately announced the news of Jian Wushuang's death to the holy masters from the Green Fire Palace. When people heard that Jian Wushuang had been assassinated and died on the battlefield, they felt very shocked. Is Jian Wushuang dead? The Jian Kingdom. The Jian Kingdom. Tianhuan King, Golden Rock King, Tianyin King, and Red Snow King, who were said to have died, all appeared on the battlefield. They are famous universe masters, but they set a trap to assassinate Jian Wushuang, didn't they? They are so shameless. It's a pity that Jian Wushuang, a peerless genius, has died. I heard that Jian Wushuang had become a Tao master. He had the same strength as our 5 palace masters. If he continued to exercise his skills and then become a holy master in the future, he would probably have become the leader of our Green Fire Palace. But now he has died. Jian Wushuang is dead, but the Jian Kingdom also lost something. Jian Wushuang led the 4 kings of the Jian Kingdom to an impasse in a place called Chillywind Valley before he died, and then they paid a great price for this. Tianyin King seems to have been killed by Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang knew that he was doomed to die, so he tried his best to make the Jian Kingdom lose some more things. He is really good. The people of the Green Fire Palace were all discussing it. When the holy masters in the Green Fire Palace learned that Jian Wushuang had been assassinated by the kings from the Jian Kingdom, they felt very angry. But when they heard that he had killed a universe master of the Jian Kingdom and painted Red Snow King into a corner before he died, they were very shocked and felt great admiration. But in fact, what they felt most was regret. They felt sorry for Jian Wushuang, the peerless genius. That was because although Jian Wushuang was only a Tao master, he could fight against universe masters and even killed one of them. If he hadn't died, he would have had a great future. Unfortunately, he had died. The Jian Kingdom had expected for Jian Wushuang to have greater strength in the future and then become a disaster to their country, so they took pains to ask the 4 kings to assassinate him. And they succeeded. Chapter 1157, Secret Land. Chapter 1157, Secret Land. Time flew away. In a blink of an eye, 8 years had passed. Jian Wushuang's death had once stirred up great chaos in the Green Fire Palace, but with the elapse of time, their surprise and anger faded away. Shoo! All of a sudden, a bulky figure appeared above the vast battlefield near the Chillywind Valley. He wore black armors and a black helmet, and there was a black unicorn on his forehead. He looked down at the ground coldly. Here it is, Samsara Temple Master murmured, and then he sent a message to Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang, I found the place. Let your worm beast show up. Okay, wait a moment, Jian Wushuang responded. Soon he summoned Gu King. Parasitic on Jian Wushuang, Gu King was closely connected to him. As long as they were not far away, they could communicate with each other through consciousness. After receiving Jian Wushuang's message, Gu King came out from the depths of the ground. Is this Jian Wushuang's worm beast? Samsara Temple Master looked at Gu King and thought in surprise. After that, he said, Little thing, your master asked me to bring you back to him. Little thing. Gu King grumbled in his heart. When I traveled widely in the eternal chaotic world with King Luozhan, You brat were not yet born, and even this world had not yet come into being. How dare you call me little thing? Angry as he was, Gu King did not lose temper. When his body shrank to the size of an adult's finger, he took a leap and perched on Samsara Temple Master. Although Samsara Temple Master traveled at an exceedingly fast speed, it still took him more than a decade to return to Green Fire Palace. Jian Wushuang, your worm beast, Samsara Temple Master said, while handing Gu King to Jian Wushuang. Thanks, Jian Wushuang said plainly, but secretly felt very much delighted to meet Gu King again. Soon enough, Gu King entered Jian Wushuang's body again. Gu King, are you all right? Jian Wushuang asked. When Gu King had been on the run back then, he took a blow from Red Snow King. Look at me, do you think I got hurt? Gu King responded with disdain. You should worry about yourself. You're lucky to have two original bodies. Losing one of them will not threaten your life. Otherwise, you would have died. Jian Wushuang was rendered speechless. His two original bodies was indeed a useful trump card, which benefited him a lot. However, his two original bodies could not exist forever. Now he was just a Tao master, so he could possess two original bodies at the same time. However, once he made a breakthrough and reached the level of a holy master, he would have to integrate his two original bodies into a Dharma body. At that time, he would only have one original body left. Jian Wushuang, here are your treasures. Keep them well. To protect them, I even got badly hurt. If you're in danger again, don't expect me to escape away with your treasures again, Gu King said. I have learned from this awkward experience. How could I put myself in such a situation again? Jian Wushuang tittered, putting his treasure aside. He put on his blood-killing plate armor again. It's a pity that Blaze Quicksand Gourd was lost in the Chillywind Valley. I don't know if I can take it back one day, Jian Wushuang muttered. It's just a Blaze Quicksand Gourd. It's not a big deal. The battlefield where you are is a huge treasure vault. As long as you have strong power, you can get whatever you want, Gu King responded, curling his lip. You're right, Jian Wushuang laughed. In fact, he did not attach much importance to it, either. In the following days, Jian Wushuang still waited in the secret chamber. After a couple of days, the 5 palace masters finally intended to lay hands on Golden Axe, Holy Master. Within Green Fire Palace, Golden Axe, Holy Master stood in a hall alone. He looked calm on the outside, but in fact he was feeling slightly nervous. Jian Wushuang died not long ago. Why did Sunrise Sword Emperor summon me here? Golden Axe Holy Master was lost in thought. Did he find out anything about me? It's impossible. Golden Axe Holy Master shook his head and comforted himself. I left no traces. Besides, Jian Wushuang already died. No one will know that he told his location to me before his death. Even Jian Wushuang himself would have never thought that it was me who betrayed him, since at that time he must have been busy fleeing from the kings of the Jian kingdom. Even if the palace masters of the Green Fire Palace had perceived something suspicious on Jian Wushuang's assassination, they would never have been able to connect his death to me. Golden Axe Holy Master thought confidently. After all, a dead man could not talk. Jian Wushuang is dead, and no one knew that he talked to me before his death. I'll never be suspected. However, Golden Axe Holy Master did not know that Jian Wushuang was still alive. A moment later, 2 figures entered the hall. By Feng Holy Master, Celestial Master Feng. Golden Axe Holy Master said, smilingly, Golden Axe Holy Master, By Feng Holy Master, and Celestial Master Feng greeted him cordially. Are you summoned here by Sunrise Sword Emperor as well? Golden Axe Holy Master asked. Yes, by Feng Holy Master and Celestial Master Feng nodded at the same time. Golden Axe Holy Master was relieved, a hint of joy flashing across his eyes. Sunrise Sword Emperor did not summon me here alone. He also invited by Feng Holy Master and Celestial Master Feng. It seems that he has met some problem in formation. He didn't summon us here because of Jian Wushuang. Golden Axe Holy Master thought with a sly smile on his face. By Feng Holy Master and Celestial Master Feng were good at formation, and so was Golden Axe Holy Master. After a while, Sunrise Sword Emperor entered the hall. "Here you are." Sunrise Sword Emperor looked down at them as he said, "You three are proficient in formation. That's why I summoned you here today. I cannot tell you details here. I'll explain to you when we arrive at the destination." "Yes, Palace Master." The three nodded solemnly. The three holy masters followed Sunrise Sword Emperor and headed for the battlefield. The four of them spent several years reaching a virgin area. There was a mysterious place at the bottom of the cliffs which was under the restriction. "What's this?" The three holy masters gazed at this place with confusion. "Lately I have passed above the cliffs and discovered this secret land by chance," Sunrise Sword Emperor explained. "Secret land?" Golden Axe Holy Master, by Feng Holy Master, and Celestial Master Feng were taken by great surprise. There were countless mysterious places on this vast battlefield, but only a few of them could be referred to as secret lands. Chapter 1158, Trap. Chapter 1158, Trap. A secret land. It's a secret land. Golden Axe Holy Master thought with surprise and excitement. The Green Fire Palace had been built on this battlefield 40 million years ago, and the experts of the palace had discovered only 3 secret lands since its foundation. The 3 secret lands, full of occult, had been of great help to the Green Fire Palace. For instance, Time's secret land could change the speed of time, and Sword Realm was a big fortune for sword principle cultivators. As for the Jian Kingdom, it had not occupied any secret land on this battlefield up till now. It was jealous of what the Green Fire Palace had, but it could not do anything except accept this fact. After all, the experts of the Jian Kingdom had migrated to this battlefield much later than those of the Green Fire Palace, and the discovery of a secret land relied upon time and opportunity. Now, Sunrise Sword Emperor claimed that he had found another secret land. The 3 holy master were astonished. "I'm fortunate to enter this secret land once. I just stayed inside it for 1 day, but I had a very great harvest. In my eyes, perhaps its value is less than that of our Time's secret land, but it is much more valuable than Sword Realm," Sunrise Sword Emperor said with a smile. "We Green Fire Palace must think of a plan to hold this amazing secret land. But now there's a restriction around the secret land. To occupy this land, we have to break the restriction. That's why I invited you here." After a pause, Sunrise Sword Emperor continued, "You 3 are formation masters. I hope you work together to break this restriction, and I'll have your back. Besides, this secret land is important to us. You must keep this secret land to yourselves before we entirely take it. You understand me?" "Yes, Palace Master," by Feng Holy Master and Celestial Master Feng nodded immediately. Golden Axe Holy Master agreed too. Now, the excitement had overwhelmed him. God bless our Jian Kingdom. Sunrise Sword Emperor discovered the 4th secret land and asked me to help with breaking the restriction. Most importantly, only Sunrise Sword Emperor is here. The Green Fire Palace has only 5 palace masters in total, and they perform their respective duties. If all of them had flocked here, they would have alerted the Jian Kingdom, and this place would have been exposed soon. That's why Sunrise Sword Emperor took us here to break the restriction. In this way, they can hold this secret land privately. What a perfect plan. However, you're doomed to fail. This secret land is bound to be the Jian Kingdom's property. As for Sunrise Sword Emperor, he's likely to be the leader of the Green Fire Palace. We have been planning to take his life all this time, and now we finally get a perfect opportunity. Golden Axe Holy Master thought as a hint of ferocity flashed across his eyes. The next moment, he secretly sent the news to the experts of the Jian Kingdom. When the high-ranking experts of the Jian Kingdom received the news, they were overjoyed and wasted no time sending experts to the secret land. Let's get started. Sunrise Sword Emperor ordered. Golden Axe Holy Master and the other two Holy Masters walked up to the entrance of the secret land and began to work on the restriction, but Golden Axe Holy Master just pretended to do so. He did not know that the other palace masters of the Green Fire Palace were keeping a close watch on him. This place covered by the restriction was not a secret land at all. In fact, it was a trap that the Green Fire Palace had set a long time ago. At this moment, Samsara Temple Master, Void Temple Master, and Red Lotus gathered in a palace in the center of the restriction. They utilized this palace to hide their aura. Meanwhile, they observed what was happening outside the palace. If everything goes smoothly, the Jian Kingdom must have received the news by now, and their experts will arrive here soon. Void Temple Master sneered. I selected this area on purpose. This place is not far from an opportunity land with space wormhole, and that land is under the Jian Kingdom's control. It'll take the experts of the Jian Kingdom just a couple of days to reach here, Red Lotus said in a cold voice. We just need to wait here. Once those experts arrive, we'll give them a big surprise and expose Golden Axe's identity, by the way, Samsara Temple Master said with a strong killing intent. They had planned to not only reveal Golden Axe's identity, but most importantly give a blow to the Jian Kingdom. The four palace masters would work together to eliminate the experts from the Jian Kingdom when they broke into this trap. Not to arouse Golden Axe's suspicion, they had brought Holy Master by phone and Celestial Master phone here. The two Holy Masters were ignorant of their plan, but they could be trusted. They could never be spies of the Jian Kingdom. They were elders who had lived for tens of millions of years and joined the Green Fire Palace long before the Jian Kingdom had moved here. Several days later, experts of the Jian Kingdom arrived. What happened next went as the Green Fire Palace had planned. The experts of the Jian Kingdom broke into the restriction as they had been told that there was a secret land under it. As soon as they entered the place, they were ambushed as four palace masters took action together. These experts suffered a great loss. Jian Wushuang and Tang Emperor were sitting inside a secret chamber of the Green Fire Palace. They were drinking their tea and waiting for the results. After a while, they received a message from Samsara Temple Master. My guess is right. Golden Axe Holy Master is a spy of the Jian Kingdom. Jian Wushuang stood up, his eyes full of anger. I never believed that there's such a good-tempered man in the world. It's not surprising that he's a spy of the Jian Kingdom. Gu King snorted inside Jian Wushuang's body. Tang Emperor took a sip of his tea and said smilingly, last time when the four kings of the Jian Kingdom plotted to assassinate you, you managed to kill their Tianyin king. Even Red Snow King has been missing since then. No one knew whether he's still alive. This time, we've not only tricked the Jian Kingdom into a trap, but also killed one of their universe masters and badly hurt another two. Haha, losing two universe masters within several decades is a blow even to the Jian Kingdom, said Jian Wushuang. Of course it is. Boy, it's all your credit, said Tang Emperor. Well, Jian Wushuang smiled, for he did not dare to take this credit. Now, the four palace masters are on their way back. Besides, they haven't killed Golden Axe. They've taken him alive. Do you want to meet him when they come back? Tang Emperor asked. Yes, replied Jian Wushuang. With the fury in his eyes, he continued coldly, a man who concealed his real identity for years pretended to be a good man and made me lose an original body. Of course, I have to meet him. Tang Emperor furrowed his brows. The 4 palace masters brought Golden Axe, Holy Master back to Green Fire Palace soon. Chapter 1159, Returning to Firmament Territory. Chapter 1159, Returning to Firmament Territory. In the dim palace, Golden Axe Holy Master stood there, looking deadly pale and trembling violently. It's impossible. It can't be. How did they discover my real identity? Why did they set me up? Golden Axe Holy Master thought, and then shook his head, finding it very hard to accept the truth. He could not figure out why the Green Fire Palace suspected him. Upon Jian Wushuang's death, no one was supposed to know that Jian Wushuang had told him his location. Golden Axe. With an indifferent voice sounding, Sunrise Sword Emperor appeared in front of Golden Axe Holy Master. Aren't you confused, shocked now? Sunrise Sword Emperor asked, giving Golden Axe Holy Master a cold glance. He continued in a deep voice. To be honest, you've remained so well hidden in the Green Fire Palace that even our late palace masters never doubted you. But this time, you cannot deny your real identity anymore. Someone wanted to meet you. When you see him, your doubts will be dispersed. As soon as Sunrise Sword Emperor finished his words, a figure arrived suddenly and showed up in front of Golden Axe Holy Master. Golden Axe Holy Master, long time no see, Jian Wushuang said with a sly smile on his face. It's you. Golden Axe Holy Master yelled with his eyes widely open, as if he had seen a ghost. It's not real. You died, didn't you? Red Snow King, and the other kings watched you die. The news about your death has been spread in the Green Fire Palace. Golden Axe Holy Master howled. His howls reverberated throughout the whole palace. The palace itself was a treasure. Golden Axe Holy Master's voice could not be heard outside the palace. In the meantime, he could not pass messages to others. Of course you wanted me dead. So did the Jian Kingdom you serve. Unfortunately, I let you down, Jian Wushuang said with a sniff. As for the news of my death, the 5 palace masters had disseminated it on purpose to fool you and the Jian Kingdom. Did Green Fire Palace use you as a bait? Golden Axe Holy Master asked, staring at Jian Wushuang. Clever. Jian Wushuang grinned. No. Golden Axe Holy Master roared hysterically, shaking his head madly. At this moment, he was desperately eager to inform the Jian Kingdom and its experts that Jian Wushuang was still alive. That monster did not die. In his eyes, Jian Wushuang would be the leader of Green Fire Palace in the near future, which would be the Jian Kingdom's nightmare. Golden Axe Holy Master longed to fill the Jian Kingdom in so that they could think of some plan to kill Jian Wushuang, even at all costs. However, he had no means to tell them. The Jian Kingdom was doomed to be kept in the dark. Golden Axe Holy Master seemed to have foreseen the scene. Jian Wushuang was qualified to be the leader of Green Fire Palace years later. He joined the final battle between the Jian Kingdom and the Green Fire Palace and caused massive casualties to the Jian Kingdom. That was a catastrophe for the Jian Kingdom. Jian Wushuang, what do you want me to do with Golden Axe Holy Master? Sunrise Sword Emperor asked. Of course, execute him directly, Jian Wushuang answered. I see. Sunrise Sword Emperor nodded, and then swished his hand to summon a flash of sword essence which directly attacked the center of Golden Axe Holy Master's forehead. Golden Axe Holy Master had been limited by a restriction, so he had no strength to defend himself. Soon he closed his eyes, and his breath vanished. After Golden Axe's holy master had died, Jian Wushuang had nothing to do in the Green Fire Palace. Escorted by Void Temple Master, he left Green Fire Palace privately and returned to Green Fire World. Green Fire World was divided into 2 continents, and Void Continent was on top. Jian Wushuang, take care of yourself. You can deal with your personal matters. Keep a low profile, and do not expose your identity easily. If you meet any trouble that you're not convenient to solve in person, let me know directly, Void Temple Master said to him. I will, Jian Wushuang responded with a smile. Void Temple Master took leave. Jian Wushuang came to a small hall of Void Temple. Open the wormhole. I'm heading for Firmament territory, Jian Wushuang said in a grave voice. Having observed Jian Wushuang for a while, a purple-robed servant in the palace responded, Sir, it's quite a long travel to Firmament territory. Therefore, you need to pay a great number of divine gems. How many? Jian Wushuang asked. 8 billion, the purple-robed servant replied. Using a wormhole costs 1 billion divine gems, which is equal to all the property of a common Dao Mater. Void Palace Master is a good businessman, Jian Wushuang thought with a smile. The next moment, he took out a token. Open it now, Jian Wushuang continued. Yes, my lord. The purple-robed servant nodded with respect and left to open the wormhole. Jian Wushuang had gotten this token from Void Temple Master. In the whole Void Temple, only a few people possessed such tokens. With this token, Jian Wushuang could take wormhole without charge. Within a few seconds, the wormhole had gotten ready. My lord, this way please, the purple-robed servant said, and stood respectfully beside Jian Wushuang. Got it. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. He looked at the wormhole ahead of him, his eyes full of excitement and expectation. I've left Firmament territory for long. It's time to go back. Jian Wushuang stepped into the wormhole. With a flash of light, he disappeared. The next moment, he arrived at Firmament territory. Although it was just a common realm in the Green Fire world, it boasted an enormous number of warriors. Jian Wushuang had left Firmament territory alone about 2,000 years ago, and now he finally returned to this territory. During those 2,000 years, there was no great change in the structure of the Firmament territory. Among all the sects and powers in Firmament territory, the 3 magnates still took the lead. 9 top sects, including Ancient Sect, served the 3 magnates. After Jian Wushuang came back to Firmament territory, he visited the Ancient Sect first. After all, he had been a disciple of the Ancient Sect. As soon as he appeared in the void above the Ancient Sect, he spread his strength of soul and saw everything within the sect clearly. Jian Wushuang noticed a white-robed man who was standing on the top of a mountain with his hands behind him. The man had a kind, gentle air, and he was looking up at the void above with a smile. His gaze landed on the direction where Jian Wushuang stood. Shoo! Jian Wushuang took a leap and entered the world below. Chapter 1160, Visiting Xian Yi. Chapter 1160, Visiting Xian Yi. Jian Wushuang easily broke into the protective array of the Ancient Sect, and then came to the white-robed man, directly. Master, Jian Wushuang took a bow. Upon hearing this, the white-robed man who had stood there with his back toward Jian Wushuang a moment ago turned around slowly. This man was Jian Wushuang's master, Xian Yi. You're back. Xian Yi observed Jian Wushuang and continued smiling. It seems that you're a Dao master now. You've made much faster progress than I imagined. I just had some luck, Jian Wushuang responded humbly. Jian Wushuang, is this really your mysterious master who gave you Mountain River Map? Gu Qing's voice sounded inside Jian Wushuang. Yes, he is, Jian Wushuang replied to Gu Qing. What's going on? Gu Qing said in a confused voice. I'm incredibly adept at sensing and able to see through anyone in this realm. But somehow, I cannot sense your master's real strength. Really? Jian Wushuang frowned. I perceive that your master has only reached the eternal realm. But if he was just at the level of eternal realm, how could he give you a chaos divine treasure? How could he impart secret skills which could improve consciousness to you? Gu Qing said in a deep voice. Jian Wushuang also felt curious. His master Xian Yi had always been a mystery. Jian Wushuang had been ignorant of the real identity and strength of his master before, since he was too weak to sense them. He had expected to find out some clues to his master's identity and strength this time. Nevertheless, even Gu Qing failed to see through Xian Yi. Jian Wushuang exerted his strength of soul again, but only found out that Xian Yi was a common eternal realm. It was uncertain whether Xian Yi had perceived Jian Wushuang's strength of soul. He still looked calm. As he swished his hand, a long, narrow table emerged ahead of Jian Wushuang along with a mat behind him. My dear disciple, take a seat, said Xian Yi. Jian Wushuang sat at the long, narrow table, without smart talk. Did you get into any trouble outside? Why did you come back all of a sudden? Xian Yi asked. I didn't get into any trouble. I've left for long, so I wanted to come back and have a look around. By the way, fulfill some promise I made before, Jian Wushuang replied. What did you refer to? Xian Yi asked in confusion. Master, do you know when Eternal Zone will be opened? Jian Wushuang asked. Eternal Zone? Xian Yi was on alert. He glanced at Jian Wushuang and continued, Why did you ask that? I had stayed in Eternal Zone for 100 years. During that period of time, the ancient god clan in Eternal Zone had helped me a lot. When I took leave, I promised them to visit them again and help them with some matters, Jian Wushuang answered. When he had been in Eternal Zone, ancient god clan did give him much help. As he had bloodline of Imperial God Clan, the 3-star Ancient God Elder E of the Ancient God Clan had asked him to help them break seal of the holy place with his Imperial bloodline. Jian Wushuang had promised to help him. Nevertheless, at that time, Jian Wushuang did not have enough powers to honor his promise to Elder E, so he left and promised to come back to help them thousands of years later. 2,000 years had passed. Now Jian Wushuang returned to live up to his words. There's no need for you to enter Eternal Zone. Even if you insist on going there, you cannot enter that place, Xian Yi said. Why? Jian Wushuang asked, frowning. Eternal Zone vanished 2,000 years ago, Xian Yi explained. What? Did you mean that it just disappeared? Jian Wushuang asked, taken by great surprise. How? Eternal Zone had existed in Firmament territory for hundreds of thousands of years. How did it vanish suddenly? Was this King Gutong's doing? Jian Wushuang said, and his pupils constricted. Yes, King Gutong did this. Xian Yi continued with a smile. As you had stayed there for a while, you should have learnt that those ancient gods all believed in one king, and they were subjects to him, but their king had disappeared one day suddenly, so they had come to Firmament territory and sealed their holy place. In fact, King Gutong is their king. Are you saying that King Gutong is the king whom those ancient gods of Eternal Zone serve? Jian Wushuang was stunned. Jian Wushuang had assumed this possibility when King Gutong showed his powers 2,000 years ago. It seemed that his assumption was correct. Master, what's going on with King Gutong? Jian Wushuang asked. King Gutong suffered a disaster before, which almost took his life. Although he survived with luck, he was tormented by an evil, overwhelming power inside. Owing to that evil power, he failed to regain his full strength, and he even began losing his life. Later, he ran into me, and we made a deal, Xian said with a laugh. A deal? Jian, Wushuang muttered. I refined an elixir and helped him erasing that evil power, and then he owed me a debt. Since then, he had been staying here and waited for a chance to pay me back. 2,000 years ago, I asked him to help Tang of the East, and told him that once he helped you win the battle, he owed me nothing. After returning my favor, he left with his eternal zone directly. Xian continued. I see. Jian Wushuang's doubts had vanished. He finally understood why King Gutong had been willing to take orders from others. Although he had not fully restored his strength, he was still a 7-star imperial god. As a top-notch expert, he was not likely to work for others easily. All he had done was to return Xian Yi's favor. Since King Gutong took over Eternal Zone, the holy place of ancient god in Eternal Zone must have been opened. Now that King Gutong came back to those ancient gods, they do not need your help anymore, Xian Yi said. Jian Wushuang shrugged his shoulders. He had intended to give ancient god clan a hand so as to fulfill his promise, but now it seemed that there was no need. King Gutong is a 7-star imperial god with immeasurable powers, but your master could refine an elixir to disperse the evil power that King Gutong failed to heal. Jian Wushuang, do you know what this means? Jian Wushuang heard Gu King's voice inside his head. What else does it mean? It proves that my master is good at refining elixir, Jian Wushuang replied jokingly. Of course, he was just joking. He had been thinking highly of his master all this time. Now he had an even higher opinion of his master than before. Chapter 1161, Returning to the Ancient World. Chapter 1161, Returning to the Ancient World. Jian Wushuang talked with Xian Yi for quite a long while. They talked about the changes in the ancient sect over the 2,000 years and other trivial things. Their meeting lasted almost half a day, but during this period of time, Jian Wushuang had never inquired about Xian Yi's real identity or background, nor had Xian Yi unveiled them to him. Jian Wushuang did not want others to know that he was still alive. Therefore, he only visited his master and then left the ancient sect. Jian Wushuang, your master has a big secret, Gu King said in a serious tone. I know, Jian Wushuang nodded. In fact, he had discovered that a long time ago. If my assumption is correct, your master does not belong to this green fire world. He must be from the eternal chaotic world and is probably a big shot, a top-notch existence in the eternal chaotic world, Gu King continued. Are you sure? Jian Wushuang asked, furrowing his brows. Are you sure that my master Xian Yi is a top-notch expert in the eternal chaotic world? It's just my guess. I'm not certain about this. Gu King went on. During my journey in the eternal chaotic world along with King Luozhen, I met a great many top experts, and some of them were full of mystery. However, your master is more unfathomable, mysterious than any expert I've met before. How come such an incredible expert was willing to stay within the green fire world? He even has kept a low profile, served as a palace master of a sect, and accepted several disciples. Why? What's his intention? Hearing this, Jian Wushuang wrinkled his forehead into a frown. Xian Yi's real purpose? Jian Wushuang wondered cluelessly. In his eyes, Xian Yi had always been a mysterious, easygoing, and casual elder. Most importantly, Xian Yi had treated his disciples very well. He had patiently instructed his several disciples, including Jian Wushuang in cultivation, and gifted them plenty of treasures. Although he had done so much for them, he had never asked them to pay back. Is he really selfless? Or does he think that my 3 senior brothers and I are still too weak to help him. Jian Wushuang thought to himself, and then shook his head. Anyway, Master is my savior, and I am willing to return his favor even if I need to sacrifice my life. I do not care what his aim is, as long as it does not infringe my principle or it is not evil. I will do my best to help him. Jian Wushuang said, a determined look in his eyes. Gu King stayed silent for a while, and then said, "Take it easy. I can feel that your master treats you sincerely, and he's unlikely to have the intention of utilizing you. If you're really determined to return his kindness, you should try your best to enhance your strength. Now you're not strong enough to pay him back." Jian Wushuang smiled bitterly. He was well aware of that. Although he had stood at the summit of Greenfire World, he still had a long way to go if he wanted to catch up with the top experts in the eternal chaotic world. If he wanted to be of some help to Xian Yi, he had to cultivate harder to improve his battle strength. Jian Wushuang, what's your plan? Are you going to head for Star Island? Gu King asked. Star Island? Jian Wushuang repeated to himself. That was where Lineage of Stars chose their disciples. Jian Wushuang had once been a disciple of Lineage of Stars. After passing the trials in the Black Tower on the Star Island, he had been freed from Star Island. However, plenty of people were still trapped there, and some of them were Jian Wushuang's good friends. Besides, Jian Wushuang had made a deal with Tao Master Kong Ming on Star Island. Kong Ming had given him a dragon phoenix fruit in exchange that he must return to Star Island in 100,000 years and try to pass the ultimate trial to set him free. Being a Tao Master now, Jian Wushuang was qualified to accept the ultimate trial on Star Island. I'll go to Star Island one day, but it can be postponed. Now that I've come back to Firmament territory, I plan to have a look at my hometown, Jian Wushuang answered. You hometown? Do you refer to the ancient world? Gu King was stunned. Yeah, Jian Wushuang replied, with a bright smile appearing on his face. He was from the ancient world. He was born and bred in the ancient world. He had been in his hometown for just dozens of years, while spending more than 2,000 years staying in Greenfire World. Despite that, Jian Wushuang still loved his hometown more. The ancient world is my root. I left there 2,000 years ago. I want to know what it looks like now. Is Sword Marquis Mansion still there? Jian Wushuang was eager to come back, clasping his hands. He took leave immediately. As a plain world, the ancient world was just a small part of the Greenfire World. To enter the Greenfire World, the warriors in the ancient world needed to break through a series of barriers and overcome lots of hardships. However, experts in Greenfire World could easily step into the ancient world. Jian Wushuang quickly found the way leading to the ancient world. There were countless ancient worlds, and Jian Wushuang's homeland was one of them. It was called the Divine Land. The waves rolled up on and off above the sea, with the clear, blue sky reflecting in it. A void above the sea began to crack, and the cracks quickly extended and covered hundreds of miles, looking like a huge spider web. All of a sudden, it shattered, and a huge space black hole emerged out of nothing. A red-robe figure slowly walked out of the black hole after its appearance. With the arrival of the figure, the black hole releasing terrifying, devouring power began to shrink. Within a few seconds, it disappeared. The world fell silent again. Here I am, my ancient world. Jian Wushuang was floating on the surface of the sea. He closed his eyes and breathed the air around. He opened his eyes again after a long time, with a joyful smile on his face. I'm back. I come back. Jian Wushuang cried out with a delightful smile. He raised his hand and swished it gently. The surrounding void immediately broke into fragments, and then a crack which extended several thousands of kilometers turned up. The space of the ancient world is indeed delicate. Even one or two eternal realms can easily smash such a world. Jian Wushuang sighed, secretly while shaking his head. Soon Jian Wushuang's strength of soul began to spread around the world. His strength of soul covered this world instantly without meeting any obstruction. Nanyang continent is over there. Chapter 1162, Jian Xiaoyao of Sword Marquis Mansion. Chapter 1162, Jian Xiaoyao of Sword Marquis Mansion. Tianzong dynasty was one of the many dynasties in the Nanyang continent. Small and weak as it was undoubtedly one of the most ancient dynasties in the continent. No one dared to look down on it. When it came to the dynasty, what most people would think of first was not their imperial house. Instead, it was a particular faction. That faction was Sword Marquis Mansion. Sword Marquis Mansion had existed for over 2,000 years. In the beginning, Sword Marquis Mansion was just a small force in Tianzong dynasty. It gradually became the overlord and now enjoyed higher prestige than the imperial house. It even saved the dynasty from hostile occupation 1,000 years ago. Sword Marquis Mansion left other factions and dynasties in the Nanyang continent in awe. It was said that Sword Marquis Mansion owed its prestige to its extraordinary founder born 2,000 years ago. The patriarch's insurmountable power and contributions to the mansion was a legend in itself. Bahui Commandery. The entire Bahui Commandery was now under the control of Sword Marquis Mansion. The base of Sword Marquis Mansion was located in its capital. It was a busy street full of people, making for a boisterous scene. Inside one of the taverns that lined the street, two warriors sitting opposite each other were chatting over food and drinks. Have you heard? Half a month ago, the genius from Sword Marquis Mansion joined the easternmost hunt and claimed the first place among all the talents from 10 dynasties. Rumor has it that this genius won with ease and didn't even use his full power. Of course, everyone has heard of it. He truly deserves his title as the top-notch genius of Sword Marquis Mansion. I remember that he's called Jian Xiaoyao. But if he's that strong, why isn't he on the earthly dragon list that Tianzong dynasty issues? Earthly dragon list? That list only focuses on Tianzong dynasty. It's not a big deal. I heard that Jian Xiaoyao made a name for himself in a large empire and even ranked first among the geniuses there. He's amazing. Of course, Sword Marquis Mansion is also powerful. Their geniuses are all excellent. No one overheard their conversation as the two of them occupied a private room. Yet a scarlet-robed young man who was sipping wine by the window heard their conversation loud and clear. The liquor here isn't as good as those in the Green Fire world, but there's a unique taste to it. I like it, Jian Wushuang thought, smiling. Then he shouted, "Waiter, bring me 100 jars of this liquor." "Yes, sir," a waiter immediately replied. Jian Wushuang continued to savor the fine liquor, but his mind was busy pondering over the two warriors' words. Jian Xiaoyao, a genius from Sword Marquis Mansion. Since I left 2,000 years ago, I worried that it might have been destroyed. Not only has it survived, but it's becoming even more prosperous. It must be thanks to Uncle Xiao. Through his soul power, he had long detected that there was a puppet fighter inside a deeply hidden secret chamber inside Sword Marquis Mansion. It was a puppet fighter of the divine realm. It was undoubtedly a terrifying existence in the ancient world. It was unlikely that Sword Marquis Mansion acquired the puppet fighter on its own. It must be Emperor Zhao's doing. After all, Jian Wushuang had asked him to take care of Sword Marquis Mansion. The owner of the tavern, with several waiters following behind him with jars of liquor, walked up to Jian Wushuang. "Sir, here is the liquor you asked, 100 jars in total. Would you like to pay it with spiritual liquid or elixirs?" the owner asked, smiling. Jian Wushuang was stunned. It occurred to him that he had just arrived in the Nanyang continent, and he did not keep any of the spiritual liquid or elixirs that were used as currencies here. Though he possessed plenty of treasures, they were from the green fire world. He did not know if the tavern owner would recognize them. Even if the tavern owner knew them, Jian Wushuang would not trade them for his liquor. Those treasures were so precious that any of them would bring the owner great trouble. "Could you excuse me for a moment? I'll pay the bill later. Of course, I'll be leaving my sword as a pledge for the time being," Jian Wushuang said, handing the owner the Blood Mountain sword. But the owner furrowed his brows as he looked at the sword that Jian Wushuang had placed a layer of restriction on to seal its aura. He used his will to make the sword reveal a hint of its power. Even the faint hint of power frightened the owner. The owner immediately said, "Sir, there's no need to pledge your sword. Just take the liquor." "Oh." Jian Wushuang raised an eyebrow. "Well, thanks. Don't worry. Someone will come here and pay for my liquor soon." He waved his hand, and the liquor disappeared. He then excused himself with a smile. The owner heaved a sigh of relief after watching him leave. "Boss, is that lad an expert? Why did you let him go without taking his sword?" a waiter asked in a whisper. "Expert," the owner replied, narrowing his eyes. "You're right. He is an expert, a genuine one. He must be in the primordial gold core or yin-yang void realm at least. I'm sure about this. But why would such a top-notch expert fail to pay for his liquor?" Confused as the owner was, he did not give much thought to this. However, he was clueless to the fact that the young man was tens of thousands times stronger than he had imagined. Jian Wushuang walked toward Sword Marquis Mansion after leaving the tavern. "Jian Wushuang, you're really something to even attempt leaving your Blood Mountain sword behind as a pledge for your bill. If your master finds out, he would probably die of anger," Gu King joked. Jian Wushuang laughed cheerfully. Well, the situation called for it. Just then, a group of people riding wildebeest beasts appeared at the end of the street and slowly strode toward him. A grim-faced young man was in the middle of the group. Young as he looked, his eyes were exceptionally sharp. He had evidently undergone lots of ordeals and troubles. He carried a long sword on his back. Jian Wushuang recognized that long sword at once. Triple kill sword. Looks like he's that incredible genius from Sword Marquis Mansion. Chapter 1163, Blind Old Man. Chapter 1163, Blind Old Man. Triple kill sword was extremely important to Sword Marquis Mansion. Jian Wushuang recognized it at once, even though the one in the grim-faced young man's hand was reforged. "Looks like I found someone to pay for my liquor." Jian Wushuang grinned. He then walked up to the young man. The moment he took the first step, he morphed into someone else. His scarlet robe was replaced with a rugged sackcloth. He turned into a white-haired and blind old man, wearing a pair of torn straw sandals. He disguised himself as a lonely and blind old man walking on the street alone with a bamboo stick in hand. The sound of hooves of the wildebeest beasts became louder as the group of people neared. The pedestrians made way for them except Jian Wushuang. He slowly walked toward the group as if he did not hear anything. Soon the group caught sight of the blind old man. The disciples riding the wildebeest beasts belonged to the younger generation of Sword Marquis Mansion. Several of them showed their anger when they saw an old blind man getting in their way. "Blind old man, did you lose your hearing as well as your vision?" get out of the way, or our wildebeest beasts will stomp on you and turn you into a meat pie, a green-robed girl next to Jian, Xiaoyao said arrogantly. Oh, the blind old man raised his head with a calm look as he came to a standstill. Do you want to die? Move. She took a long whip from the waist of her wildebeest beast and swung it at the old man. Perhaps the blind old man was in luck. He happened to move to the side, and thus dodged her whip. What? The girl's eyes burned with fury. She was about to swing her whip again. Stop! The grim-faced young man's deep and reproachful voice resounded. But the girl in green turned to look at Jian Xiaoyao. Give him some money and ask him to leave, Jian Xiaoyao said. You want me to go? The girl appeared deeply unhappy. Hurry up and do it. Jian Xiaoyao's voice turned cold. The girl dared not to disobey his order. She climbed down from her wild beast and walked up to the blind old man. Come on, I'll take you aside, the girl said impatiently. She subconsciously placed her hand on the old man's shoulder. The blind old man snorted. Which family are you from, little girl? How can you speak to an elder in such a rude manner? Today, I'll teach you a lesson in your elder's stead. He raised his bamboo stick and swiped the girl. The old man's action appeared so casual that everyone thought that he was just brandishing the stick as he lectured the girl. Even a smart kid would be able to dodge the stick, never mind the green-robed girl. She was a warrior in the spiritual sea realm. It would almost be too easy for her to do so. However, thwack! The bamboo stick hit her on the butt without facing any obstacle whatsoever. The girl could feel the scorching pain on her, but she instantly flew into a rage. You old bastard, I'm going to kill you, she screamed furiously. How disobedient! I'll hit you again. The old man once again brandished his stick. Thwack! The girl took another blow on the same place, making her face turn even redder. This time, however, she reacted calmly. She stared at the blind old man, somewhat stupefied. The others were also looking at him with astonishment. Perhaps it was a coincidence that the girl failed to evade the old man's first blow. It was another story now that she had been hit twice. This blind old man. Surprise took hold of the disciples of Sword Marquis Mansion that were riding their wildebeest beasts. Jian Xiaoyao then got off his wildebeest beast and came up to the blind old man. Jian Xiaoyao apologized to the old man with a sincere, humble attitude. Please forgive my cousin, for she didn't mean to offend you. She's still young. Unlike the green-robed girl and other disciples of Sword Marquis Mansion, his abundant experience taught him to never judge a book by its cover. The old man's two successive attacks might look simple, but they had successfully hit their target. He knew that he could not belittle this old man. Instead of moving out of the way of a blind old man walking down the street, you made your cousin ask me to leave. You deserve to be punished as well, the old man said, pretending to be unreasonable. He waved his bamboo stick again. He made a simple strike in the manner of a mother punishing her child. Jian Xiaoyao stared at the stick in alarm and moved out of the way before the old man moved the stick. Thwack! Jian Xiaoyao was forced to squat. His eyes were full of shock. The crowd was dumbfounded. The green-robed girl was a weak 14-year-old. However, Jian Xiaoyao was the genius of Sword Marquis Mansion, who had just won the first prize in the Easternmost Hunt. He was the strongest among the experts of the younger generation of the 10 dynasties. It was a shock that he suffered a blow as well. Boy, are you unhappy with the result? You can come and try it again. The old man waved at Jian Xiaoyao with a sly smile on his face. Elder, please advise me, Jian Xiaoyao said with a serious expression. Instead of anger, His eyes were filled with strong excitement. The triple kill sword appeared in Jian Xiaoyao's hand. Jian Wushuang took a deep breath. Jian Xiaoyao brandished his sword. The sword moved as slickly as if it was a spiritual snake, slithering through the void. How fast? Too fast. Is this the true strength of the champion of the easternmost hunt? The warriors could not help exclaiming when they saw Jian Xiaoyao's performance. But all of a sudden, thwack! The triple kill sword flew out of Jian Xiaoyao's hands. The seemingly powerless bamboo stick struck him, and he felt a stinging pain. How is this possible? Jian Xiaoyao was stupefied. He didn't use his spiritual power at all. His power is as weak as that of an ordinary human, and his attack is excruciatingly slow too. How did I end up losing? Even as Jian Xiaoyao doubted himself, the excitement in his eyes became stronger and stronger. Chapter 1164, One Strike. Chapter 1164, One Strike. Senior, please advise me again. Jian Xiaoyao had already picked up his triple kill sword. He stared at the blind old man, his eyes full of great passion and delight. Oh! The old man smiled as he nodded. Jian Xiaoyao drew out his sword again. His movement was exceedingly fast and powerful, unleashing a torrent of spiritual power that formed a whirlpool. It's the traceless sword skill of Sword Marquis Mansion, someone exclaimed. The old man swung his bamboo stick. Thwack! Jian Xiaoyao's triple kill sword was thrown into the air again. Strike again, senior. Jian Xiaoyao was not discouraged in the least. He picked up the triple kill sword from the ground again and continued to thrust his sword at the old man. What a crafty strike! It looks like a viper. Thwack! The triple kill sword fell to the ground. That's the blood moon sword skill of Sword Marquis Mansion. Thwack! The triple kill sword fell to the ground. That's Jian Xiaoyao's most powerful attack. Thwack! The triple kill sword ended up on the ground again. Jian Xiaoyao launched a series of attacks, going all out with each. Even so, the blind old man continued to brandish his bamboo stick and toss Jian Xiaoyao's sword into the air over and over again. What astonished the crowd most was that the old man's movement appeared slow and his blows weak. However, Jian Xiaoyao failed to withstand his attacks. Jian Xiaoyao had used more than 10 sword skills throughout the dozen rounds of their fight, but ended up losing his sword each time. The outcome was the same even after so many times. The onlookers were all thoroughly dumbfounded. No one had any doubt that this powerless-looking old man harbored an unpredictable strength. Whoosh! Jian Xiaoyao took a deep breath before looking at the blind old man. With a serious look, under everyone's watchful eyes, he kowtowed to the old man. I'm Jian Xiaoyao. I implore you to take me as your disciple and teach me swordsmanship. Disciple? The genius of Sword Marquis Mansion wants to make this blind old man his master. He's the great genius who won the easternmost hunt. It's rumored that many experts in the Yang Void realm and divine transcendence realm wanted him as a disciple, but he had refused them all. But he's now asking to be this old man's disciple? Jian Xiaoyao's actions stirred heated discussions among the people on the street. That old man shook his head when he saw Jian Xiaoyao kneeling before him. I'm not an expert. I'm not qualified to be your master. Speaking of swordsmanship, I know just one move which I used to punish my grandson. He's a troublemaker, and I hit his, but when he makes trouble, are you willing to learn that? The crowd was confused. Punish his grandson? He's going to teach a technique to hit a child's, but... Yes. Jian Xiaoyao kept nodding, his eyes filled with delight and desire. Fine. I'll then impart this to you." The blind old man took a step forward and stopped in front of Xiaoyao. He raised his wrinkled hand and pointed at Xiaoyao's mid-brows. Then he turned around and left. Before leaving, he left a string of words. "I owe the Red Sun Tavern some money. Go there and pay my bills off. That's your tuition fee." Xiaoyao's eyes were wide open. The scene of the old man brandishing his stick appeared in his mind, giving him a close look at the move that the old man used. Common as it appeared, it was a terrifying show of swordsmanship. It was not until now that Xiaoyao realized this. The reason he even thought that the old man's strike was common was that he was weak and his realm was still too low. This is an opportunity, a golden opportunity. Xiaoyao clenched his hands as he trembled with delight. He then left for the Red Sun Tavern and paid for the blind old man's liquor. Meanwhile, there were two figures hovering side by side above the street. One was an elegant woman dressed in a black robe, and the other was a middle-aged man in a splendid silver robe. The man emanated an air of majesty. Both of them had been around to witness how the blind old man taught Xiaoyao a lesson. "Upper Elder, what do you think of this?" the middle-aged man asked, looking concerned. "He's strong," the elegant woman replied with a serious look. He didn't use his spiritual power or other special powers in his attacks, but still effortlessly tossed Xiaoyao's sword to the ground with technique alone. "But I can't see anything special about his strike," she added. She furrowed her brows. It was impossible for an attack, imbued with the strength of an ordinary human, capable of repeatedly unarming Xiaoyao to be ordinary. This could only prove that her realm was still too low. Where's the old man?" The middle-aged man looked down at the street with a surprised expression. They had been keeping an eye on the blind old man all along, but in the blink of an eye, he had disappeared. Suddenly, a gentle voice came from behind them. "Looking for me?" "What?" Both the elegant woman and the middle-aged man were taken aback. The man was evidently less than a meter away from them, but they did not even know since when he had been standing there. How did both of them fail to notice his arrival? Swish! Swish! When they turned around, they saw the blind old man standing there with a smile on his face and a stick in his hand. He was less than a meter away from them. "You," the elegant woman uttered. "You youngsters should get a taste of my stick too," the old man said as he brandished his stick. His sudden attack shocked them both. They never expected the old man to target them. They had been watching all along, never stepping in even when he was teaching their disciples a lesson. How did they somehow piss off the old man? Surprised as they were, they did not forget to defend themselves. However, thwack, thwack. The old man used the stick to knock their weapons out of their hands and hit them without stopping. Their bodies sank downward with the force of his attacks. They continued to crash until they landed near the street. The two of them appeared to be in a miserable condition. Chapter 1165, Old Acquaintances. Chapter 1165, Old Acquaintances. Damn it! Both the elegant woman and the middle-aged man were furious. With their distinguished statuses, they had always stood high above the masses. It was difficult for normal people to even see them. Now, the old man had beat them up so badly that they fell near such a crowded street. What? The elegant woman's expression underwent a drastic change. She lowered her head to look at the crowded street below. She was now hovering in the air and stood less than 10 meters above ground. Most people could see her if they just lifted their heads. To her surprise, the woman discovered that everyone on the street was so preoccupied with their affairs that they did not notice her. The crowd ignored her as if she was air. It was as if they were in another world. What's happening? The middle-aged man's eyes widened when he noticed the same. We're right here above the street, but no one noticed us even after all that commotion. What did he do? The elegant woman was dumbfounded. She knew that the pedestrians were neither deaf nor blind. The only possible explanation was that the blind old man had used some powerful skill to temporarily silence their hearing and eyesight. That was why the crowd did not notice them. What an incredible skill! She took a deep breath. She came to realize that she had come across an incredibly formidable expert. "You're those youngsters' elders, aren't you?" the old man asked coldly as he stood there. The elegant woman and the middle-aged man finally responded after some hesitation. "I'm Jian, the upper elder of Sword Marquis Mansion. I'm Jian, Sword Marquis of Sword Marquis Mansion. Nice to meet you." "So one of you is the upper elder, and the other is the Sword Marquis." The blind old man smiled. He pointed at Jian and said, "You look like my old friend from Sword Marquis Mansion." "You know her? May I know her name?" Jian asked. "Jian Meng'er," the blind old man answered. "Jian Meng'er." Jian was stunned, and a hint of terror flitted across her pupils. "She was my great-grandmother, who passed away 2,000 years ago. Senior, are you really her old friend?" Emotions surged wildly in Jian and Jian. Jian Meng'er had been one of the most powerful figures in the history of Sword Marquis Mansion. She was also acquainted with the incredible founder of Sword Marquis Mansion, Jian Wushuang. When he disappeared, Jian Meng'er had managed Sword Marquis Mansion on her own. Though she had been decently talented, the peak of the Yang Void Realm was all she could achieve. Since she had not reached the Saint Realm, she lived mere hundreds of years. It had been over 2,000 years since her death. But this blind old man had introduced himself as Jian Meng'er's old acquaintance. "This man is an old monster who's the same age as my great-grandmother." Jian was in shock. Old monster. That was true. Jian Wushuang was considered a youngster with a short cultivation age over in the green fire world. But over in the ancient world, a man more than 2,000 years old was undoubtedly an old monster. Your great-grandma and I were old friends. Today, I happened to run into some arrogant juniors from Sword Marquis Mansion. The old man snorted. Sword Marquis Mansion might be influential in the Nanyang continent now, but don't you forget that there are countless experts in this world who are capable of destroying Sword Marquis Mansion. I advise you to keep a low profile, or you might end up offending some tough enemy. Moreover, you elders should be monitoring your juniors' behavior. You can't let them bully others in the name of Sword Marquis Mansion. Most importantly, never forget your past suffering. Don't forget that Sword Marquis Mansion was weak once. It owes its influence and prestige today to all its past hardships. Us members of Sword Marquis Mansion will bear your words in mind. Jian replied respectfully. "Well, that's quite enough. Those words just came to mind." The blind old man waved his hand. "Besides, I have a manual of swordsmanship with me. Now it's yours. You can discuss how to utilize it." He threw a token and then vanished. Jian and Jian looked at each other in confusion. "Upper Elder, who was that?" Jian asked, frowning. "I have no idea." Jian shook her head. "He looks like a good man who bears no malice towards Sword Marquis Mansion. Besides, he left us a manual. His words and actions show his dissatisfaction with our current situation. It seems that he's disappointed with us. Is he really my great-grandmother's acquaintance? Perhaps. But he reminded me that our rising influence in the Nanyang continent in recent years has attracted the attention of many forces. Moreover, it's true that our juniors are increasingly unruly," the middle-aged man said. "One of our clansmen had recently slaughtered a faction of Tianzong dynasty with his men for a woman's sake, but our elders merely turned a blind eye to this. One of our geniuses assassinated a talent with a higher ranking on the earthly dragon list. What the hell are they doing? Why didn't you bring this up before? Jian asked in a reproachful tone, her eyes turning razor-sharp. I only found out a couple of days ago. Sword Marquis Mansion seems strong and united on the surface, but it has been divided into many clans fighting for their own benefits. Though I'm the Sword Marquis, I'm incapable of changing this situation on my own. After all, I have to balance these clans. Those useless fools. Jianyu's voice was terribly cold. That elder is right. We've been comfortable for so long that many of us have forgotten how we had struggled to become stronger. It seems that we should start cleaning up our act. It's time for those elders to learn a lesson or two. I'm too weak to achieve this myself, but it's possible with your support. Jianhua replied. Chapter 1166, Wushuang Sword Pavilion. Chapter 1166, Wushuang Sword Pavilion. Then just go for it. We owe our current position to our great ancestor. Without him, Sword Marquis Mansion would have perished a long time ago. He had tried so hard to lay the foundation for us. We can't let those pests ruin his efforts. Jianyu clenched her hands, her eyes flashing with firm determination. Oh, right, the elder left us a manual. She stared at the token in her hand. She allowed her consciousness to enter the token. Then, all of a sudden, her eyes opened wide. Terrifying. What a terrifying swordsmanship. Do you mean the manual that the elder gave us? He knows such terrifying swordsmanship and used such amazing skills. Who is he? He can't be great-grandmother's old acquaintance. Her great-grandmother had merely reached the peak of the Yang Void realm and had not befriended any high-standing individuals. Yet that blind old man had called himself her old friend. If he knew great-grandmother, why did he only return after 2,000 years? Moreover, if he was just a friend, he had no reason to care about Sword Marquis Mansion. He had been so disappointed earlier. He's not my great-grandmother's old acquaintance. I think he has a close connection to Sword Marquis Mansion. Perhaps he's one of our ancestors. Our ancestor? Jianyu was stunned. Is he our patriarch? Their founder was a legend in the history of Sword Marquis Mansion. Yes, that's him. He's undoubtedly our patriarch. Jianyu exclaimed with excitement. Our patriarch's disappearance back then was a mystery. Some suggested that he didn't die, but left for a vast world to pursue higher cultivation. He must have returned from that world. He showed up to teach us a lesson after noticing our internal corruption. He intended to enlighten us. Patriarch. He's our patriarch. Jianyu was thrilled. It took her a while to calm down, and she grasped the token tightly. From now on, the swordsmanship inside this token is the most precious treasure in Sword Marquis Mansion. Only the most talented is qualified to learn it, and he must take a blood oath to never impart it to others. Whoever breaks the oath will be disposed of as a traitor. Jian Wushuang returned to his own appearance after reappearing in the void. He took slow steps, but the span of each step covered thousands of miles. Why did you pretend to be a blind old man to teach your juniors a lesson instead of revealing your identity? Gu King asked. Reveal my identity? Jian Wushuang shook his head. Before setting foot in the Nanyang continent, he had intended to reunite with his juniors of Sword Marquis Mansion as himself. However, he changed his mind after walking into the tavern outside Sword Marquis Mansion. He had spent half a day staying there, and while he drank alone, his soul power had already covered the whole city. He had heard many conversations between warriors as well as between commoners. Certain conversations taking place in private quarters were particularly eye-opening. It was not until he heard these conversations that he realized how bad the corruption and disunity in the current Sword Marquis mansion had become. Factions are formed, and fellow clansmen plot against one another. In the fight for more interests, some even lay hands on another in private. Most disciples of the younger generation are snobs who bully others without concern for consequences, Jian Wushuang said with a grim expression. They're conceited and fearless even without me around. Won't they become even more audacious if I reappear in public, thinking that I have their backs? He did not want to see the current situation in Sword Marquis Mansion. He had shown up to punish junior disciples, and even two elders, Jianyu and Jianhua, as a warning for them to keep a low profile and realize the crisis within Sword Marquis Mansion. I've done all that I should do. The future of Sword Marquis Mansion is up to them now, Jian Wushuang murmured. He had done more than enough, be it doling out advice or punishment. He had no intention of interfering with the development of Sword Marquis Mansion. In fact, he did not even mind its decline, as long as it could be inherited from generation to generation. After all, he could not stay here and guard Sword Marquis Mansion forever. What's your next move? Gu King asked. Let's head for the Divine Land now. I'm worried that girl can't hang on any longer, Jian Wushuang answered with a smile. A girl? Does she have anything to do with you? Gu King asked. You'll know when we arrive there. Jian Wushuang continued his journey at full speed. It did not take him long to reach the Divine Land from the Nanyang continent without even taking the wormhole. The Divine Land was the core of this realm. The ancient world was under its control. Back when Jian Wushuang first roamed the Divine Land, there were 3 ancestors, 9 sovereigns, and 72 marquises here. These were all top figures of the Divine Land. However, it had been 2,000 years. Things had changed a lot, as did the layout of the Divine Land. Now, 4 influential factions ruled over the Divine Land. The 4 forces were under the leadership of 4 overlords. One of them was called Wushuang Sword Pavilion. Wushuang Sword Pavilion appeared 2,000 years ago. Its founder was a woman named Lin Lan. Lin Lan used to be one of the 72 marquises. Her cultivation speed had been fast, but not impressive. But later, she made great progress and entered the skyscraping realm within 100 years. Since then, she was one of the most powerful experts in the ancient world. The warriors of the Divine Land respectfully called her Queen Lanyue. Under her leadership, Wushuang Sword Pavilion had existed in harmony with the other factions in the Divine Land for the past 2,000 years. However, in recent years, Wushuang Sword Pavilion had turned against Spirit Palace, one of the 4 overlords. Both parties had descended into endless ferocious fights. In the beginning, the 2 overlords had been evenly matched, but later, Wushuang Sword Pavilion was soon placed at a disadvantage. Today, Spirit Palace had directly broken into their stronghold. Wushuang Sword Pavilion was located on a vast land among the giant mountains. Bang! 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 Deafening explosions resounded in succession, the sound reverberating throughout the mountains. The whole Wushuang Sword Pavilion had fallen into a state of manic slaughter. Chapter 1167, Queen Lanyue. Chapter 1167, Queen Lanyue. Ha! Lin Lan. Or should I call you the famous Queen Lanyue? I said that one day I will completely wipe out your Wushuang Sword Pavilion and make you mine. Today you can't run, can you? A tall, bald man was waving his big axe and laughing wildly. His opponent was a glamorous and beautiful woman. This woman had a perfect body and face, and most importantly, a very noble and incomparable temperament. Queen Lanyue was crowned the female emperor because she had always held a high status. For more than 2,000 years, her Wushuang sword pavilion had never been touched. Her title of the female emperor was well-deserved. Well, you're not qualified to mess with me yet. The voice of Queen Lanyue was cold and fierce. With an air of majesty, she swept her long sword and broke out her full strength of skyscraping realm. There were many strong players on the field, but no one could confront her. Even the talkative bald man who was the palace master of Spirit Palace in Skyscraping Realm had to admit that Queen Lanyue was definitely much better than him. "Haha, I can't touch you, but someone can and will." The bald man laughed and looked at Void next to him. "Master Kong, it's your turn." "Master Kong." Queen Lanyue's eyes narrowed. The bald man was in the skyscraping realm and could beat all of the divine land experts. Who was qualified to make him respectfully call master? Soon, she saw Master Kong. It turned out to be a chubby elder who had a pair of eyes as small as those of mouses. This chubby old man slowly walked over and soon appeared in front of Queen Lanyue. "Is she Queen Lanyue?" The chubby old man looked Queen Lanyue as if she had been an ant. "That's her," the bald man respectfully said. Queen Lanyue looked grave. Normally, with her strength in ancient world, no one should be able to fear her. However, when the chubby old man appeared in front of her, she had an instinct feeling of terror and even pictured herself losing the battle. This chubby old man stood there, and Queen Lanyue did not even have the courage to fight back. "Who are you?" She clenched her teeth, suppressed her fear hard, and shouted, "I'm Kong Ming." The chubby old man spoke. Queen Lanyue's heart sank. She never heard of a formidable expert called Kong Ming, not only on divine land, but also in other ancient worlds. The horror that this Kong Ming brought to her. "You are from the eternal world?" Queen Lanyue asked coldly. "You are not stupid." The chubby old man smiled and confessed, "I heard that you have been collecting the ancient world tokens for many years. You want to go to the eternal world, right? In addition, I also heard from the place master of Spirit Palace that you have a master. Your Wushuang sword pavilion is named after him. Your master is said to have gone to eternal world by ancient world tokens more than 2,000 years ago. If I'm right, you want to go to eternal world to find your master, right? Haha, what a good apprentice. Unfortunately, you misunderstand the eternal world. Your master might be something in the ancient world, but once he reaches the eternal world, he will find that he is just a cockroach. In the eternal world, there are a lot of people stronger than him. He went to the eternal world alone, and I'm afraid that he would have died long ago." Upon hearing this, Queen Lanyue clenched her teeth and suppressed her anger. She respected her master most in her entire life. Her master reinvented her. She attributed her current achievements entirely to her master Jian Wushuang. In her heart, her master was the same as God. Thus, even when she created her own force, she named it after her master. In recent years, as the Firmament Territory Feast was about to open again, she had desperately collected the ancient world tokens only to keep up with the pace of her master. Now, when she heard such nonsense, she would naturally turn furious. At this time, Kong Ming spoke once again. "Since you really want to go to the eternal world, I can help you. From today, you will be with me and serve me. If you do a great job, when I recover, I'll take you to the eternal world and even find your master. How about that?" Hearing this, Queen Lanyue was even more angered. "Why? This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Are you reluctant?" Kong Ming smirked. "Master Kong." The Spirit Palace master frowned. He also longed for a woman like Queen Lanyue. Who in the world did not want to conquer a peerless woman like her? "Do you have a problem with that?" Kong Ming peeked sideways at the Spirit Palace Master. No, I don't. The Spirit Palace Master shook his head fearfully. Well, you just follow my orders and make preparations in time so that I can quickly recover. I'll get everything you want, but if you can't help me, you have to die either. Kong Ming scolded. Yes, my lord. The Spirit Palace Master nodded in a row, in fear that Master Kong would be unhappy. He knew very clearly that this Master Kong, despite being seriously injured and lesser than his usual strength, could still kill him like an ant. Queen Lanyue, I'm not that patient. Do you really want to give away this opportunity? Kong Ming glimpsed her one more time. You want me to serve you? You wish. Queen Lanyue shouted coldly. Oh, you're not willing to? Kong Ming cocked one eyebrow and smiled coolly. Then I'll have to do it the hard way. Finishing his words, he waved his hand and summoned a huge palm. The giant hand appeared, and the whole world shook. The surrounding void cracked. Huge space rifts appear, and all the engaged people in Wushuang Sword Pavilion stopped and fled. In moments, the giant hand approached Queen Lanyue. Chapter 1168. I am her master. Chapter 1168. I am her master. Queen Lanyue's teeth were gritted, and her body was shaking. Watching the giant hand approaching her, she desperately wanted to resist. But she found herself unable to move. Is this the end? Queen Lanyue muttered, showing a desperate look. Suddenly, the rushing, huge palm disappeared. Without a sign, it vanished into the void. The overwhelming power contained in the palm disappeared without a trace. She looked dumbfounded. Everyone present appeared baffled. On the other hand, all color had left the face of the owner of the huge palm, Kong Ming. Who is it? Kong Ming retorted, and his voice echoed throughout the heavens and earth, lingering for a long time. At that time, in the distant sky, a scarlet-robed figure appeared and was slowly approaching Kong Ming. Although he was slow, he had walked a long way with merely 2 steps, arriving at the center of the battlefield. The figure stopped. It was a figure of a young man who was carrying a long sword. As he waved his sleeves, the whole world went completely quiet. Seeing the person, Kong Ming squinted and cast a cold look. Queen Lanyue stared at the person in disbelief. Who are you? Asked Kong Ming in a low voice. Me. Jian Wushuang was smiling faintly. Didn't you just mention me? Mentioned you? Kong Ming paused thoughtfully before he realized. You are Queen Lanyue's master. Yes, I am her master. As for the name, it's Jian Wushuang. I wonder if you have heard of it. Jian Wushuang remained calm. A junior who just has lived for more than 2,000 years. How will I know you? Kong Ming snorted, full of disdain in his heart. When Jian Wushuang quietly undid his attack, he thought that he might be very strong and perhaps reached Eternal Realm. When he knew who Jian Wushuang was, he did not bother to pay attention to him. He's only been in the Eternal World for 2,000 years. In such a short time, even if he's somewhat talented, what level can he reach? A divine realm expert is the best he can be. Kong Ming thought to himself. He was an eternal realm and was among the best ones. In the whole wide world, only few top Dao masters were worthy of his attention. It was not every day you got to see a Dao master. Being in the eternal world for 2,000 years, how could he become a Dao master? How could he be? Naturally, Kong Ming did not pay close attention to Jian Wushuang. This ancient world belongs to the Firmament territory, where I'm famous. Every eternal realm should know my name by now. However, if Kong Ming doesn't know me, that means he didn't come from the Firmament territory. Jian Wushuang folded his hands behind his back with a rather strange look. After he came to the ancient world, He had deliberately concealed his own aura to stay under Kong Ming's radar. And looking at the current situation, Kong Ming really did not take him seriously. Jian Wushuang, I want your disciple as my maid and take her to the eternal world. You're fine with that, aren't you? Kong Ming put on airs, looked at Jian Wushuang, and laid all his eternal realm aura onto Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang did not know whether to cry or to laugh. An eternal realm tried to lay pressure on him by his aura. There are a lot of people who are ignorant under the sun. You are one of them. Jian Wushuang smiled and spoke. You want to take my disciple to the ancient world? I certainly have no problems with that, but I have one condition. What condition? Kong Ming thought that Jian Wushuang had been completely overwhelmed by his eternal realm aura. You have to return to the eternal world. Jian Wushuang teased. Kong Ming looked stunned. You are playing with fire, kid. As he finished, Kong Ming stretched to tap at Jian Wushuang from a distance. The stroke shattered the fragile void in this ancient world. The whole world seemed to be torn into pieces. It was a scene that could shake the world. The scene struck fear into the hearts of warriors from both Wushuang Sword Pavilion and Spirit Palace. God. This is the power that God has. Does God really want to destroy our Wushuang Sword Pavilion? The Wushuang Sword Pavilion warriors growled. Queen Lanyue was panicked and worried. Kong Ming was full of killing intents. Although he was seriously injured and could not play 1% of his strength. However, even if 1% of his power was enough to kill a normal divine realm expert. Abruptly, a breeze passed, the collapsed and ruined world quickly recovered. Kong Ming's stroke quietly dissipated without a trace. What? Kong Ming was stunned. Jian Wushuang glanced up coldly. Jian Wushuang's cold eyes left Kong Ming awestruck. He was frozen on the spot. His hairs stood up at once. Kong Ming opened his mouth, but could not say a word. Unprecedented fear snatched his heart. Only at this moment had he finally known who was standing in front of him. Dao Master? Is he a Dao Master? Kong Ming's eyes widened. Jian Wushuang blew a breath, and a sword essence formed. Though seemingly small, it left Kong Ming in great terror. He snarled, Don't you dare. My master is Dao Master Bloodtusk. I am Dao Master Bloodtusk's disciple. Oh. Jian Wushuang cocked an eyebrow, and the immaterial sword essence that was rushed toward Kong Ming stopped in the void. Kong Ming swallowed and looked at the immaterial sword essence in terror. Then immediately he crushed a token. As soon as the token was broken, there was a spectral image that was completely formed by consciousness appeared in the world. This consciousness spectral image formed the appearance of a red-haired elder who sounded kind of evil. I wonder which Dao Master wants to kill my disciple. Dao Master Bloodtusk wants to meet him.